I'm in second place and you passed me. What place are you in?
First.
First place.
Yes.
I'm in second place and you passed me. Well, how would you be in first place?
Because I passed you. I passed you, so I'm in first.
I'm in second place, though.
Congratulations. Now I'm in first because I passed you. I passed you. Are we running? Are we driving? It doesn't matter. I passed you. I'm in first.
Good evening, everybody. Before we even get started, I want to remind everybody, make sure you guys like the stream, share it again, and share it again. But support the stream through Cash App, Super Chat, Super Thanks if you catching the replay. All right. So before we even get started, you know what I'm saying? I'll do a roll call in the chat in just a few moments. But there was an interview done. I think it was done yesterday or early today. But Jason Whitlock actually premiered it live on his Harmony channel. So throughout the course of the stream, I will be dropping the link to that if you want to be able to watch that stream without my commentary. I am going to give my commentary on this interview. Now, I think at this point, most of us understand, or I'm not going to say that we all understand, because I've seen some pretty crazy takes on the situation and the law, but most of us pretty much know the situation about the two boys, Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf. There was an altercation at a track meet about a year ago, and you know, the boy Austin Metcalf, who just happens to be Caucasian, and the other child, you know, at the time, you know, Carmelo Anthony, who happens to be a so-called black young male, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Austin Metcalf was stabbed in the chest. It was a lethal stab wound. He has since passed on. Now, there's been a jury verdict that has come out. It's gone to trial. It's all over with now. And Carmelo Anthony was found guilty of first-degree redrum. You know what I'm saying? You can spell that backwards, and you know what it means. You know what I'm saying? What it is. But yeah, first-degree M charge, and he has been sentenced to 35 years in prison. Okay. Now, Austin Metcalf Austin Metcalf. Jason Whitlock did an interview with Jeff Metcalf, who is the father of Carmelo Anthony. So this is something that we will review today in its entirety. It's about an hour-long interview, and then Jason Whitlock and some of the people that he works with, they did their own commentary on the video after it was over. So during this interview, there were a lot of things that were said. I don't have the chat on subscribers only mode. I'm gonna, for the most part, let people rock out. I'm gonna give my commentary, but hey, all of the racially charged shit, my moderators ain't having that shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what side you on. We're not gonna give, racist rants in the chat and all of that other stuff. I personally don't even like the way this has been racialized amongst children, because there really were no winners. When it comes to this wasn't a win for the black community. This wasn't a win for the MAGA far right wingers or anything. At the end of the day, you got a Caucasian male that's dead, and you got a black male that is incarcerated, and he is going to do at least 50% of that 35-year sentence that he was sentenced to. So I don't see any winners regardless. Now, my take on this, I'm going to reiterate it throughout the course of this review. My take on this, you got a lot of ambulance chasing activists, okay? And people that just kind of want to eat off of the clout, which is, understandable. This is a high profile case, and that's kind of, the internet's going to internet. That's what they're going to do. I do believe that that as far as both of these parties are concerned, whether it's the one side of the boy that's deceased. What's up, TMKC? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give a roll call in the chat in just a moment, and then as y'all are coming in, I'm gonna miss a few people because I'm gonna do some commentary on this review. But that's not a win, because what I'm saying, they got one of their own that's deceased, so they didn't win. And as far as the black community, hey, you got a boy that's locked up for a while. Like, this is gonna cost him his 20s and his 30s. And no, there are no winners except for the people that are commentating about it and doing commentary about it on social media and getting their faces on television and all types of larger platforms. That's really it. But other than that, there are no winners. Nobody's family won in this. It's losers all around. You know what I'm saying? Taxpayers done had to kick out all types of money too. It's nothing but losers when it comes to this. The only people that won, you know what I'm saying, were the paid attorneys, the ambulance chasing activists, and the social media influencers. And as far as I'm concerned, I could personally give a damn about any of them. But here, let me give a roll call in the chat. TMKC says she wants to eat off the clout. Well, we gonna feed you. We gonna feed you and feed you and feed you and feed you today. Right? But now, shout out to TMKC. Appreciate that $5 super chat. And y'all make sure that you follow TMKC's lead. You know what I'm saying? Make it rain on you, boy. You know what I'm saying? Super chat's available. Cash App is available. Super thanks will be available if you're catching the replay with this. And of course, if you're checking it out on Twitch, because we are simulcasting at the home of the official YT Purge, Anti, the Boiler Room, and as well as on Twitch, you can also send some cheers too. We appreciate all of that. Shout out to the Cali Sty in the building. What up, Cali Sty? Good to see you too. Yummy Yums in the building too. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights in the building. Shout out to Leticia McGee, Aquafina BBW in the building. What up, Leticia? You know what I'm saying? I got Unbothered for Real 704. Hey, you too. Hey, you too. Appreciate you. And shout out to Big Brenda Clark with the shit. She said, congratulations to the 2026 NBA World Champions, the New York Knicks. We can't forget about them. Our boys brought home the big gold ball. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the Knicks. We're not going to really talk about that too much more today, though. But shout out to Big Brenda Clark. We appreciate her. Y'all make sure y'all copy your memberships, too. She hit that big boy membership milestone at the Boiler Room, member for 6 months. We got memberships available on any of those platforms that you're checking out. We are fully monetized no matter where you're watching it from. So all donations are welcome and appreciated. And shout out to Raven Knight, the Knight's Palace. Appreciate you. He said, big shout out to cousin Long Neck Auntie. You awake from your drunken celebration slumber. Congrats again on winning the championship, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And yes, I am up. You know what I'm saying? I am up. But here, we're going to get right into this right here, because this is I'm not going to say it's a wild one. It didn't get too out of hand. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to give a little commentary when it comes to this one before I even get started. And I'm not really a big fan of Jason Whitlock. You know, I think he can kind of borderline, you know, on the not just conservative side, but the coonish side sometimes. But I think he did a pretty good job as far as this interview was concerned. I think he did a pretty good job. For the most part, he let Jeff Metcalf do a large percentage of the talking, you know, with this. So I'm going to give my commentary and review. So without further ado, I know that's what y'all are here for. I'm going to bring it up. If you're not familiar with Jason Whitlock's platform, this was something that for the most part, you can really see it on his Harmony channel. That's pretty much where you get to see it at, you know, his Harmony channel. So I'll be dropping the link for it, you know, in a little bit. But you guys make sure to support the stream through Cash App, Super Chat, Super Thanks if you're catching the replay. Appreciate that.
Transition into my interview with Jeff Metcalf. Jeff Metcalf, the father of Austin Metcalf. Jeff, welcome to the Harmony channel.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. Jeff, we've been covering the fallout of the guilty verdict as it relates to Carmelo Anthony. Been celebrating it, and one of the things I've been celebrating is that I think you have been masterful and biblical from start to finish. I think the way that you express forgiveness early on, outreach to the family, willing to pray with them, I think those were the right things to do as a Christian, but I also thought it was the right thing to do as a father seeking justice for his son. There's not one thing you did that jeopardized your son getting justice for his murder. And I'm just wondering how much of...
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. That is where I would disagree with Jason Whitlock on that. And respectfully, I'll disagree with that. If it's coming from a genuine place as far as, you know, prayer, you know, forgiveness, because as I stated in the beginning of the stream, there are no winners in a situation like this. No winners at all. You know, he's not a winner. You know, he's had to bury his son. All of us that are parents, we know that's our worst nightmare, is outliving a child. And of course, definitely on the other side, there are no winners. Like they're gonna have to, you know, see their child in a cage, you know, for the next minimum 17 years. Or if everything is appealed, maybe in somewhere between 5 and 10. But as far as the prayer and everything goes, if it's coming from a genuine place, no. As far as it being the right thing to do, I think it would have been the right thing to do after the trial was over. You know, after there's an actual resolution, not immediately after the incident. Okay? Because of course tensions are high. You know, that family is trying to do everything that they can to defend their son, protect their family, you know, do a lot of different things. And of course, you know, Jeff Metcalf, he's part of a grieving family. Like they just had to bury a 17-year-old. So it's just, even though it's the right thing to do, it's not necessarily the right time to do it. And when you do the right thing at the wrong time, that can kind of turn it into the wrong thing, you know? So that's just my take on that part.
That was strategic, and how much of that was just the Holy Spirit leading you in a proper direction?
I have to give God 100% credit here. I'm not that smart. I couldn't come up with all that on my own. So from the day it happened, I mean, it was surreal for the longest time. And then to be put under the gag order and then have my son dragged through the mud and memes and just the vile comments and these advocates that want to speak out and not being able to defend my son was taxing mentally, spiritually, physically. I mean, it was exhausting. So when the gag order was finally lifted, yeah, I mean, I did go off. I mean, not my best moment, but it was raw and it was accurate and it was truthful. I don't apologize for anything I said. I am who I am. I own it.
Now, I'm not going to replay what he said. I did hear it. You know, he kind of did a stream or a video where he called, you know, Carmelo Anthony a watermelon felon, you know, or something like that. Look, you know, I know a lot of people are, you know, calling that a racist rant and everything else. And I'm not even going to argue it. I'm not going to disagree because that's definitely a, I don't like to use the term racist because I don't think the term racist is being used in its proper context right there. But it's definitely a racially charged statement, you know, that has some racial context to it. So that is what it is. But at the same time, I do also understand, you know, those are the words of a grieving father. You know, so that's one of the reasons why I'm not gonna, you know, really, you know, replay that or even take too much, you know, into account.
And so when you talk about going, are you talking about in the interview you did over X, in the spaces with? I watched quite a bit of that, and I didn't find any of it, including the parts they took out of context. I didn't find any of it unexpected or unusual. When you say you went off, what do you mean by that? What did you say that either surprised you or surprised others or that caused a reaction?
Well, I'll let my emotions get the best of me at some points. I did use some foul language. I wish I wouldn't have cussed so much. It's not a true representation of who I am, but I just want to put somebody in my shoes and go, look, man, if your kid was murdered violently and these people did this to you for 12, 14 months and you had to say nothing, I really think I was pretty light. I could have been a lot worse, but it just would have reflected on me that's my character. And that's not who I am. And that's not who I try to portray. And it's not, I still have to be a role model for Hunter. I mean, I'm still a father. And so, I mean, I have responsibilities, and I had to have a chat with Hunter and tell him, hey man, this is what I'm talking about. You can't mix emotion with intellect. And I said, I got emotional and I said some things that I normally don't say. And I had to explain it to him that, you know, I'm sorry, son, I failed you some, I failed myself some, but I'm human. And, you know, we try to be as Christian as can be, but that doesn't mean I'll walk on water or turn it to wine. So I am who I am.
Yeah. So, like, even when listening to that part, and you guys are going to hear a little bit, well, you're going to hear a lot more of this interview right here, but they're going to speak on how we need to teach our children, you know, self-control and impulse control and things like that. But yet, you know, you can kind of just say things that you claim you don't mean, that, you know, that are not supposed to be a reflection of you. And you can just kind of just say things and do things, you know, out of emotion, you know, and act in the moment. So one would be able to even make the argument that that's what Carmelo Anthony did, you know, to your son. And it's a shame that your son, you know, lost his life and everything, but it's kind of the same situation. But not, you know, but not. So, you know, you're going to hear a lot of streams, you know, over the course of the next day or so, people reviewing this and breaking it down, and they're going to have a pretty good point about how it can sound extremely hypocritical when you say something like this right here. And then later on, you talk about, and of course, Jason Whitlock is up there talking about how Black parents and other kids need to be able to teach their children impulse control and everything else. But then you talk about being a role model, but yet you just kind of say things and do things that are permanent because the internet never forgets. You know, the internet never forgets. So just like Carmelo Anthony definitely should have thought before he acted. Definitely should have thought before he brought a knife to a track meet. You should probably think before you even open your mouth on the internet. You know, and just speak impulsively.
I am.
Yeah, I'm not, the things that have been taken out of context, like the watermelon felon or whatever. I don't even want to go there and make you.
No, wait. Let's talk about that 1 second. You do realize where I got that. You realize where I got that phrase from? There's a man on Facebook called Real Wolf Hats. He's a black individual. He's the one that said it. I laughed my butt off. He said it a long time ago, and I have no clue how subconsciously that came out during that interview, because that whole 3-hour interview, there was nothing written down. There was nothing scripted. I just shot from the hip. So like I said, man, I gave it to God, and he just let me speak freely.
So I want to be careful and fair.
And shout out to TMKC. And again, shout out to you again for that $5 super chat earlier. I agree with everything you guys are saying. You know, being emotional does not equal being racist. What's in you is in you. And yes, those are two different things. You know what I'm saying? We know that he felt hatred for the group of people, you know, that boy represents. And of course, you know, I'm pretty sure he's heard a lot of things on the internet that maybe he feels as though that represents him. Maybe it doesn't. But that's one of the reasons why I don't like to use the word racist, you know, as much as people like to use it in these spaces. You know, just because of a comment that somebody makes, because I understand that words have meaning, right? Words have meaning. So I know the difference between a racist and a bigot. Now, does that make one any better than the other? Nah, not necessarily, you know, but I know the difference between the two, you know, and it's amazing. I rarely hear the word bigot being used when that would usually be the proper context to describe somebody that makes a comment like watermelon felon or all of those racially charged, you know, little slurs and jokes and shit like that. Those are rooted in bigotry, but racism is just different. It just has a different meaning, you know, has a different meaning, you know. You cannot like somebody because of the color of their skin, their background, their religion, whatever. And that does not make you a racist. Does make you a bigot, but doesn't make you a racist. So you guys go ahead, check Merriam-Webster's. These words have meaning. You know what I'm saying? And the word that best fits those comments, you know, although could be just as wrong, are just as wrong. You know, I wouldn't condone any of them, but that would make you a bigot. And it's smart enough. I mean, if you're smart, you got some intellect, you wouldn't want to be either.
But I want to know. I mean, people are just interested.
Shout out to
of all the things that after the death of your son, obviously the murder is the worst thing. In the aftermath of that, what has been the worst thing that you've experienced from the Carmelo Anthony supporters?
That's longer than a CVS receipt. So I don't know, death threats, emails, text messages, you know, people that want to go online and spout their opinions, which they're entitled to. We have First Amendment free speech here. Now, free speech doesn't guarantee you no consequences. I know of an individual who was threatening a certain reporter, and that person got put on probation for 10 years, and it only lasted 24 hours before he screwed up, and now he's back in Texas doing 10 years. So just because you think you can say something, you got to be careful, because you can't threaten people. You know, that's against the law. But just the vile statements from everyone, and ones who are in denial of the truth. That's the hardest part. It's like, now that the truth has been shown, all the facts have been presented, so all your lies have been debunked, but they still refuse to accept the verdict, the truth, and they're all hanging their hat on this appeal. An appellate appeal is only looking for judicial procedural errors. They're not going to retry the case. They're not going to reintroduce evidence. I mean, it's a process. I knew it was going to happen before it happened. And I don't have any concern about the appeal. They don't have any grounds. That judge, whew, that was one tough guy. And he didn't take nothing from anyone. And he ran that ship very tight, and he controlled everything. And everyone's up in arms about, the no cameras in the courtroom. Well, you don't understand. There were minors that had to testify. And this is the thing I really want to talk about most is look at these kids who saw this murder, who have to be traumatized for the rest of their life. Every one of them are in counseling. I guarantee every one of them will not ever forget that day and what they saw. I arrived 4 or 5 minutes after it happened. I lived very close to the stadium. When the coach called me and said after Austin had been stabbed, I got there in time to see him being put on the gurney.
My bad. I got to get a member milestone graphic. I'm gonna make sure I make that tonight. But shout out to Letitia McGee, member for 10 months. So that must be at the home of the official YT Purge. Appreciate you, because I don't think I've had memberships at the Boiler Room for a whole 10 months. Or if I have, appreciate you there. I don't know which channel you're checking it out on, but appreciate you. Definitely appreciate the membership. And she says he was drunk when he did those lives itself. And more than likely, he probably was drunk. Probably was drunk, emotional, grieving, whatever. Maybe he spoke out of character. Maybe he spoke, his true feelings, and true thoughts. I don't know. I don't know. This is just this, like I say, I'm like, this is a sad situation. I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood. I would hope and pray that I'm never in the situation that he's in, or even the Anthony family is in. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure if I were in a situation like that, I really don't have anything to say to anybody online or on television. I really don't have anything to say. If you guys read any of my comments, it'd probably be in print. Like, you would have to read them. You wouldn't hear them out of my mouth, because God only knows what would come out of my mouth if I was on either side of that. So I don't know why these people, while either grieving or, trying to, just work on making sure that their child has the best defense. I'm like, on either side, they seem to find cameras and microphones and platforms and shit to speak on, Because again, I can't tell you what would come out of my mouth in a situation like that, but I'm pretty sure I would offend some fucking body. Somebody would be extremely offended by the shit that I would say. Somebody. Okay.
With the EMTs. At that point, I knew he was gone. I'll never get that out of my head. And then I went into survival function mode. Where's Hunter? I've got to take care of Hunter. And I went and found him in the locker room. He was hysterical. And I'm trying to maintain for him while he's just out of control. And we're praying. And I said, son, I got to get you in the car. We got to get to the hospital. I got him calmed down enough to get to the car, and we went to the hospital. And when we walked in, I saw one of the doctors. I saw his face. I knew what was coming. And about 10 minutes later, they walked in the room and told us that he had passed. Hunter, he spun out of control. And it took about 5 officers to hold him down. And then we actually had to get him admitted and sedated for a few hours and then we couldn't even see Austin for hours, because now it's a crime scene and they have to process the body. So we're stuck at the hospital for hours just waiting to see my dead son. But there were so many students and parents and friends that came to the hospital to support us while this was all going on. And I just want to thank everyone in my community throughout this whole nation. I have people that send me messages or call me or text me, that people I don't even know, that tell me, hey, we're so sorry. We're you know, you're an inspiration. You know, we want to teach our kids to be like you. And I'll be honest, I'm not perfect by any means. Please, I'm not a role model. I'm not like Charles Barkley. Don't look at me. I'm not the role model for you.
Charles Barkley wasn't a role model either. Okay, and he said that a lot.
I'm just a man who God uses, and he uses me however he wants to, because I really don't know where my path is going forward at this point. I mean, I can't go back to doing the job I was doing for 25 years due to safety reasons. So I really have no idea. I just turn it over to God every day and tell him direct my path. And I trust him. I believe in him. I don't understand his plan, and I will not understand his plan until I get up there and sit beside Austin. But I trust God. I don't have to agree with him all times, because me and him went round and round, taking my son at 17. But I know he's with the Lord, and he comes to me all the time. I feel him. He gives me hugs. Calls me Pops. I just miss that guy.
Jeff, you just never know who will see the interview, see this interaction between myself and you. What is it?
Now, I'm just going to stop it right there, and I'm going to give my take on it right here. You guys are going to listen to this interview a lot further. It's a lot more time left in it. But one thing you're not going to hear, and I'm going to keep on reiterating this because I've even heard the interview with the Anthony family. And, you know, I hear people, or I hear them and a bunch of people on here bringing things up about the case, the situation, what should have happened, what shouldn't have happened. And what I don't hear is both families, which I haven't heard anything from Austin Metcalf's mother, but I don't hear either one of I've heard from Carmelo Anthony's mother and his father. And I've only heard from Jeff Metcalf. But I never hear any of them acknowledging their own son's role in this unfortunate situation that affected everybody's life. Okay? So from the Anthony family's perspective, I've never heard anybody say our son made the biggest mistake of his life by bringing that knife to a track meet. He never should have did that. And I'll go deeper into that a little bit later. But I also never heard Mr. Jeff Metcalf say, you know what? My son made the biggest mistake of his life by not keeping his hands to himself that damn day. He never should have did that. So I get it. This is a very unfortunate situation. I've been a kid. You know, I've been a kid. I've been a teenager. I've seen situations happen like that. Shit pops off. You see it between, you know, white kids. You see it between black kids. You see it between black and white kids. You see it between girls. You see it between boys. You see it between girls and boys. Shit happens. Okay? Shit happens. Rarely does it end in, you know, a fatal stab wound to the chest. And then, you know, a court case and, you know, a 35-year sentence. You know, rarely does it go that far. But those are mistakes that are made on both, like from both parties, that likely would have avoided this entire situation and this fallout right here. And I don't hear either side, you know, acknowledging their accountability for the situation. Shout out to Stacy, member in the building for 27 months. Shout out to Stacy. She said, hey, Aunt, thanks for bringing good content. Man, appreciate you, Stacy. Thank you so much. Let me give a thank you for all of that.
Witness the C-Walk. Incredible. Keep it gangster, dog. Keep it gangster. 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 I wanna thank you all. I wanna thank you. I wanna thank you all. I wanna thank you. Keep it gangster.
man. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, Stacy. We're gonna get back into this interview here, but shout out to one of my top moderators, Miss Stacy, in the building.
You were doing career-wise before. Someone in our audience may be listening, may have an opportunity for you, because I would imagine Hunter's going to go off to college. And
yes, he is. A few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Proud of that
so,
boy.
yeah, I mean, potentially you could relocate. Someone may have a great opportunity so what were you doing before? Do you have any thoughts of what you would like to do? Would you be willing to relocate?
Well, I was a real estate agent for 25 years. So unfortunately, people call me up. Hey, I want to go see 123 Main Street at 3:00. Meet me there.
Yes.
Everybody, and the DAs, the sheriffs, the FBI, even the FBI said, look, we can't tell you what not to do, but it is not in your best interest to continue because you could be set up. You could be, they could meet you at the house. And it irritates me because I don't want anybody to have control over me like that. But in the same sentence, I have to be aware and smart and not naive or blind to the fact that there are people out there that do want to harm me or say they do.
Yeah, obviously. And it's a shame that the police have to tell you about this stuff now. And you weren't smart enough to keep your damn face off the damn camera. For the most part, like your wife or your ex-wife has been smart enough to keep hers, off the camera. Like most people wouldn't even recognize his ex-wife if they saw her on the street. Unless you're like from that town and that community, you probably wouldn't even recognize him. But you'll recognize him because he's been all over television and everything else. So that's kind of the path that you chose, that you chose with that. That's why it makes sense to think, before you come on camera and start talking into a microphone and shit like that. That's a fair warning because people are crazy out here. They are.
I mean, I have no idea. I hope to God there's not people out there in the world that have these thoughts about harming someone who's had a child murdered. I can't comprehend that type of thinking or logic or reasoning. There is none to it. But one of the things I don't know how I will, but I really would like to be able maybe to go around and speak at high schools and talk about impulse control, de-escalation, and how because today's youth, I'll be honest, man, you're old school like me, we're OGs. So it's like, it's a totally different world. And what I learned, they don't learn. And
you're absolutely right. And also, what you didn't learn, you didn't teach. Like I said, de-escalation, don't bring a knife to a track meet. No need for violent, senseless deletions. Totally understandable. But there was something that I was taught at age, 3 years old, 4 years old. And that was keep your hands to yourself. We're going to listen a little bit further. I'm actually going to spin the block for about 10 seconds. Notice all of the things that he said, but he's never, ever going to speak on keep your hands to yourself. No, that does not absolve Carmelo Anthony from guilt. Because just like I said, no reason to be bringing a knife to a track meet unless you plan on piercing someone's skin with it. Okay? It wasn't a box cutter. I don't think you had it as a box cutter because you worked the stock room at a at a supermarket or some shit. Okay, you had that knife for quote unquote protection and to defend yourself for whatever reason. Why would you feel like you needed to defend yourself at a track meet? So yeah, we can't absolve him from guilt, but also keep your hands to yourself. Like I say, just because somebody's wrong doesn't make the other person right. Just like two things can be true at the same time, two people can be wrong at the same time. And in this particular situation, two people were wrong. It's just one of them's dead and the other one was just sentenced to 35 years. That's my take on it. So that's just a basic concept that a lot of people don't want to understand, and that's cause and effect, actions versus reactions. It's that simple.
I'm sorry, man. Boys all the time. It wasn't like I'm an absent father. Those are that's what's, I think that's contributing to the moral decay of society. I think just there's a certain level of entitlement I sense from today's youth. Like they don't have to earn it. They think it's entitled, and they have a great disrespect for a lot of things. And I'm sorry, but it all starts at home. And if you want to protest about something, fine, do it peacefully, do it the right way. Same, I can go off on immigration. If you want to be here, do it the right way. There are ways and protocols to do things in our society. Don't go burning stuff down. Don't go looting. Don't act a fool, and show your kids, when your kids come home and see you on TV that you're acting like this, what are you teaching those children? So I just want to maybe talk to parents and students about how we need to start early, and because racism, hate, love, justice, they're all blind. It doesn't see color. So this is not a racial thing. As I said from the very beginning of this trial, this is not about race. Race plays zero in this. It's all about accountability, responsibility. You control two things in your whole life. That's it. Two, right here, in this little bitty circle.
And I agree. These things need to start early. That's why in a situation like this right here, it's amazing that you teach your children how to hunt pheasants and ducks and quail and shit before you teach them to keep their hands to themselves. And maybe that's because you were so busy trying to close deals. Maybe it's because you didn't get to spend as much time in the household with your children as you would have liked to, because things didn't work out with your wife. Understandable. Same way with Carmelo Anthony's family. I don't think they did a good job of teaching their son basic concepts of cause and effect. Like there are some things that you can't do, or else they're going to have permanent repercussions on your life. It only takes a split-second decision or a split second to make a decision that can cost you the rest of your life or cost you your whole life. Teach them, hey, what would you rather do? Would you rather come home with a black eye or a busted lip, or come home on $250,000 bond and a trial for M1? Where you're facing a possible life sentence? Think about it, But there are other things that you thought were likely a little bit more important to teach your kids than basic concepts like that. And that goes for both families. But I haven't heard any of that stated from either family.
Your actions and your attitudes. Everything else is mental noise. Block it out. Control what you control. Teach your kids right from wrong. Teach your kids not to kill someone.
Hey, if you're like me,
teach your kids to keep their hands to themselves. Like I said, two things can be true at the same time. Two people can be wrong at the same time. That's why they say two wrongs don't make a right. Boom. This is a textbook example of how two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs actually made more wrong.
He's going to have to, but he has to be responsible and take consequences for his actions. I don't think he was taught well enough to understand if you do this, this is what's going to happen. I really think that he thought he.
Damn. Why I gotta keep like stopping this shit? Like, notice this. Keep in mind. That's what I mean. This is what's annoying, just kind of listening to this, right here. Because what he's saying is not wrong. But he's really seeing it from one side. And I get it as a grieving father. Yeah. But, if you are going to have these damn interviews and try to talk about it from other people's perspective, you can't be up here saying shit like, hey, I don't think that he was taught that there are consequences for your actions. I don't think your son was taught that there were consequences for his actions, because he suffered the ultimate consequence for not keeping his hands to himself. Like the ultimate consequence. This is why this is why we teach our kids to keep their hands to themselves. Number one, you don't want nobody putting their hands on you, so you don't put your hands on nobody. But also, you don't know how somebody else is going to react to that. You can put your hands on somebody and they might just cut you. Oh, well, that's against the law. Oh, but you're still gone. There's a bunch of shit that we don't just go out here doing because we know if somebody retaliates, it's against the law. Nah, because it might just cost us our lives. Like, the fuck out of here. There's some neighborhoods you don't go to. Yeah, it's legal for you to drive and walk through those neighborhoods at any time of the fucking night, but it ain't necessarily safe. That's why you don't go there. That's why you don't put your hands on people. You teach your kids not to take the law into their own hands. If you see something that's bad, you go tell an adult. Or if you see somebody sitting somewhere at a public school, on public school grounds, you tell them move or you will be moved. And then if they don't move, you can just touch them, shove them, grab them, whatever. No. Why not telling your kids, yo, if you see something that's not right, you go tell an adult, let them handle it. Go tell somebody that works there if it's that wrong. But this is something that I haven't even heard where people state in their commentary. And that's why I say two things can be true at the same time. Just because one person's wrong doesn't make the other person right. Okay? So even though, let's keep it real. I'm pretty sure you don't bring a knife to a track meet in your bag, ready to use that shit. You know what I'm saying? Without being ready for action. Like, you're ready for action. That's why you brought it. You were ready for action. So that's Carmelo's point. But let's keep it real. Austin Metcalf, in that situation, does not go tell an authority figure at the school, if it's that bad, Carmelo's not supposed to be sitting in this tent or underneath this tent. The reason why he doesn't is because he knows the authority figure is likely just going to say, don't even worry about it, man. It's raining. It's all right. He ain't doing that. If he starts causing trouble, just let me know. That's likely what an authority figure is going to do. But if the boy is just sitting there in the rain, chances are ain't no authority figure at the school going to make that boy get from underneath that tent and go stand out in the rain. So I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. Both of those boys were over there looking for trouble. One just got a little bit more than he expected. And the other one hit the wrong spot, in that chest. You hit the wrong spot. You shouldn't have had a knife to begin with. Like I said, two things can be true at the same time. Two people can be wrong at the same time. Just because one person's wrong don't make anybody right. But let's talk about this shit for what it is, not for what the hell you think it should be.
And God, I don't ever want to go to prison. But from what I've heard, it's not the best place. So he's going to have to, but he has to be responsible and take consequences for his actions. I don't think he was taught well enough to understand, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. I really think that he thought he was entitled, privileged, and untouchable. And I think his parents were
That's sad. Because a lot of people would say the same thing about your son. And they wouldn't be wrong either.
given some bad information from some other advocates. Dominique Alexander, I'll call him out. I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, I honestly believe what he did added years to Carmelo's sentence. When he kicked me out of that press conference, man, they could have taken that and spun it a total opposite way, prayed together, show the world, no racial divide. Look at me. They could have said, we're so sorry. We apologize. I can't believe this happened. But that's not the road they chose. They chose the opposite. And that's their character. And now their character is coming to light. I saw an interview with his parents and they're still in denial. Oh, all the witnesses lied. All 21 of them told the same story, but they told all the same lie. Okay. You're going to have to live with the fact your son is in prison and he's going to stay there. And as soon as they maybe realize that fact, because grief has many stages and denial is one of them. At some point, the reality is going to sit in with them and they have to realize their son is not coming home anytime soon. Because I was given a life sentence. My son will never walk through that door, never call me Pops again, and never hug me. And he doesn't get to play a down of football ever again. And I miss Friday Night Lights so much. It's a sad situation.
Jeff, man, I think someone's going to hear this interview, and it may be me hearing this interview, but I do think there is a path for you in terms of as a public speaker. I think there are. I'm thinking. I'm not going to say their names, but there's church leaders in the Texas area that I'm familiar with that could assist you in getting a public speaking career and speaking to churches, speaking to schools, like you said, or even doing a podcast that tries to help parents and educate parents, because this, I'm a big proponent of, I don't have kids, by the way, but I'm a big proponent of homeschooling because, you're right. This isn't a skin color issue, but we cannot deny that there's a cultural disconnect going on in America, and that there are cultures that are toxic and poisonous and demonic and evil. Because I'm listening to people that are a part of this hip hop culture, or what they call stereotypically Black culture, and they're acting like, let's go worst case scenario, that Austin shoved Carmelo. They're acting like that justifies stabbing someone in the heart. And as long as I've been here 59 years, kids have been shoving each other the entire 59 years I've been here. And shove me, I'll shove you back. That's what kids do. But I'm listening to people pretend like that they're a part of a culture that, oh, he touched Carmelo, so therefore Carmelo gets to kill him. Well, that's a prison mentality, a prison mindset that's just incompatible with the rest of American society. And it has to be talked about. And I'm sorry, Black people, and I'm Black, and I'm not ashamed of being Black, but we got to come out of this victim mentality and this if I get disrespected, I get to do whatever I want to someone else. That's a savage, chaotic, dysfunctional, poisonous mindset that has to be eliminated, and it has to be talked about. And so
yeah, and it does need to be talked about. But if you're going to try to put that on specifically black people, this situation can tell you that that's not the case. You don't call that just black culture, because in this particular situation, you got a black boy, you got a white boy. All right, one of those boys is from a broken home. Broken home. Daddy lives over here, mom lives over there. Okay? Now, if you didn't know the races of the individuals involved, you would think that that was just with the stereotypical black culture thing. You would think it was the black boy that came from the broken home and wasn't taught to keep his hands to himself. But that's not the case. Okay? It's not the case. So no, I think it's horrible to say things like skin color, doesn't mean anything, and then follow it up with that statement right there. It's extremely hypocritical, because look at this situation right here. What's up, Bronze? Most hated Black Power God, in the building. Salute, bro. It's extremely hypocritical. Only one exposed TV. What up with you?
I guess I have a question that, because I think you're talking about what's transpired after the murder. I want to know because I'm thinking someone may have, what do you think was driving Carmelo on that day when he arrives with a knife and trying to bait someone into confronting him? There's part of me that's like, was this some sort of gang initiation, some sort of act that he had to do to be a part of, maybe they weren't planning on him killing somebody, but it just seems so premeditated. I'm going to have conflict while holding a knife. Have you heard any speculation or whatever? Like, what was motivating him on that day?
Well, first, let me say this. When you say culture, I wouldn't paint the whole culture. I say subculture, because every culture has a certain subculture. And those are the people that give your culture a bad name. Because, look, there's stupid-ass white people all over, too. There's stupid-ass Indian people, Hispanics, whatever race you want to choose, it doesn't matter. Because let me ask you a question, Jason. What color is your blood?
Red.
Same as mine.
Yeah.
What color is our skin?
Really, it's the same color if you really understand it. It's just different shades of the same color. Look, man,
just
we
a
all serve
different
the same
dose of
guy.
melanin.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Different dose of melanin. So realistically, we're all humans. That's the way I look at it. I don't see race. Now, I'm not oblivious to people who try to use the race card to their advantage or create narratives because a person is a certain race. Those people have the wrong motives. They're trying to use their race as an excuse for their behavior. There's no excuse for the behavior from anyone who acts like that. I'm sorry. My parents would just take me aside and whoop my ass if I acted like that. And guess what? It worked. Now you can't even discipline your kids. Oh, they'll get CPS called on you. You can't do that. When I was in school, we used to get licks with a wooden paddle by coaches and principals.
Yes.
It was effective. Now everybody has gotten so soft. I'm sorry. So soft, so entitled. Everyone thinks they're important because now we have platforms. So me and you, Jason, we grew up in the best time ever. No social media, no internet, no cell phone. I do think those three things have contributed highly to the rapid moral decay of society, because technology is a double-edged sword. It is great that we're moving forward and we're learning and we're getting better, But on the other side, you take that technology, just like AI is fixing to do. I'm scared to death of that. Is, don't get dependent and don't let it form your core. That now narratives can be shaped by what they call social influencers. I mean, the name right there says it all. They're trying to influence your way of thinking. If you're going to do that, you might as well move to Russia and live in a socialist society. America is the best country in the world. We have the best freedoms. We have all the rights. But yet some people still feel oppressed, or they want to complain, or they want to. I'm sorry, I have family in the military. I have high respect for veterans. Those people put their butts on the line so you can run your mouth. Don't ever disrespect the flag. Don't disrespect a veteran, because you're disrespecting this country and what it stands for and what we were built on. And if we don't wake up, America, we're going to lose it. We're going to wind up fractured, not united. And if that's how you get conquered, united you stand, divided you fall. And if we don't get united, I won't be here, another 50 years. But I am worried for the future, what it's going to be like in 50 years. So we have to start today. You have to do it. Man, we should have started 10 years ago. Hell, should have started 50 years ago. All I know is when we took God out of school, I used to say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, put my hand over my heart. It was very simple. God was in school. We were allowed to pray. Footballs, every time we said a prayer in the locker room before we went out on the field.
Yeah. Well, only one exposed TV. That's one of the things that this great country that he speaks on was built on. Slavery, definitely a big piece of it, but there was also pillage, plunder, death, deading. The reason why that flag is still red, white, and blue. This shit was founded by a bunch of folks, or a few folks, that decided to take a front from them folks across the water and refuse to pay it back. They forget about that. And then claim some shit as their own where there are already some people here. And then, I got all the respect in the world for veterans that service our country and everything else, but I also know what our country does and what it represents around the world. I understand that shit. And for the most part, when they go elsewhere and fight these wars, it's not for our freedom. That's so that politicians, bureaucrats and bankers and corporations can line their damn pockets on whatever the hell it is, resources that they are stealing elsewhere. And whatever other governments they're going over there to destabilize. But I get it. That's what keeps America one of the most powerful nations in the world. So I am proud to live under, that regime. But at the same time, I understand what it is. But there are a lot of people that believe that America's the good guys. Crazy. Fucking crazy.
I didn't have no problem with it. And none of my teammates ever had a problem with it.
Like I said earlier, two things can be true at the same time. And just because one person's wrong, don't make the other person right.
We understood it was a common denominator. We all believed in God. Now, if you don't, that's fine. That's your choice. If you choose to be atheist, that's fine. If you want to be Buddhist or Hindu or Muslim or whatever religion, it's your choice. We have freedom of religion here, which is great. But that doesn't give you the excuse to create violence or to create a false narrative. And a lot of people choose to do that nowadays because of those three things: social media, the internet, and cell phones.
I want to go back and you can pass on the question if you want to, but do you have a theory on what Carmelo was thinking at the beginning of the day? And as he came to the track, he seemed to be looking for conflict.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't
No
address
worries.
that the first time, but here's the main thing. I don't know the answer. I was looking for the answer because I thought he was going to testify. Because if you're in a self-defense case, I'm sorry, you need to get up there and tell your story, what you were thinking, why it happened, and why you did what you did. When he chose not to testify, now I'll never have the answer. But that's okay. He can keep it.
Again, two things can be true at the same time. In this particular case, I would agree with him. Yes, in order to be able to prove self-defense, or at least somehow, some way get a jury to understand your perspective or how you perceive a threat, when the law explicitly states in your state explicitly states that the use of force must be proportionate to the threat or perceived threat. Yeah, you do need to take the stand. Unfortunately, that's kind of what it is. So to kind of sit back when it's 21 witnesses or whatever, better saying what they saw, and boom, you stuck old boy, after he shoved you. Yeah, I don't think he really had much of a chance. I had this argument with a few people on some panels, and before the verdict came out, I asked, hey, y'all think he should take the stand? And just about everybody on the panel said, no, you never put the defendant on the stand. I'm like, this is a different type of case. This is a different type of case. I don't think you have a chance. Now, granted, I don't think putting him on the stand gets him off. I think no matter what, once it goes to a trial, that's it. He's done. He's done. That's it. So nothing about the trial, nothing about the verdict, nothing about the sentence surprised me, at all. That's why I would say, Carmelo's lawyers failed him. And because his parents are the ones that hired those lawyers, his parents failed him, in that situation. As far as the community backing him, the black community backing him, I believe that the community did everything that they could do. And I said this a year ago when I originally covered the case. When they issued him a $1 million bond, hey, if we're going to band together as a community, it's our job to make sure that the boy's rights aren't infringed upon. That's really it. That's all. Make sure that, because in America, you got rights, you got rights, and you can utilize your resources. So we make sure that his rights aren't infringed upon. $1 million bond was astronomical. Once the case got a certain amount of, high profile, a certain amount of visibility, boom, the bond was reduced by 75%. Yeah, he has a right to that, has a right to a bond hearing. So that right, was not infringed upon. It was fixed. They originally tried to offer him but issue a $1 million bond package. Pretty, just astronomical for a 17-year-old with no priors, regardless of what the crime was. And then you got resources. Resources. The boy set up a the family set up a Give Send Go, Give Send Go account. And they raised like $500,000 over the course of like 2 weeks or some shit like that. So, hey, you have a right to bond, to a bond hearing. You have a right to legal representation, and you have a right to due process. At this point, you got all of that. You got all of that. The community got behind you, and you got that. You got the right. You got a proper bond hearing, which is why your bond got lowered. They gave you the resources to hire the best legal representation that money could buy, but you got to choose it wisely. But hey, you had the money at your disposal, and you got a trial by jury. After that, all of this crazy ass outrage over the verdict and shit. I'm like, look, we don't win as far. You don't win as far with the boy as you can. You don't win as far with them as you can. That's it. Those are the rights that anybody has in this nation. You got a right to a bond hearing. You have a right to legal representation. depending on your resources, that'll usually determine the quality of legal representation that you're going to get. You know, and you got a right to a trial by jury. You got all that. Jury found you guilty. Judge sentenced you to 35 years. It's a done data. I don't even know where all the outrage is. Shout out to Shaka Nulu in the building. He said, nah, in the case of self-defense, I would have took the stand, whether they are me up or not. OJ took the stand. OJ never took the stand, bro. Not in the M case. He didn't have to. He didn't have to. You know, there were enough technicalities. I'm not going to get too deep into the OJ case, but OJ also had the best legal representation that money could buy. And he didn't have 21 eyewitnesses, you know, whether they ate me up or not. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in self-defense, if you have to look, proportionality is a thing in just about every state when it comes to standing your ground or self-defense. Like, that's what it is. And it's especially like that in the state of damn Texas. So the facts are the facts. You stabbed an unarmed boy in the chest and the stab wound was fatal. So now you got to make a case to the jury because clearly the threat wasn't proportionate to the force that was used. Clearly that's not the case. So you have to somehow, some way convince the jury that the perceived threat was proportionate to the force that was used. I don't see how you can convince a jury that you perceive a threat that's greater than it actually is without telling them what the hell you perceived. You know, but what do I know? Now everybody's saying that after the fact. Notice, the day before, 2 days before the damn verdict came out, everybody's up here telling me, oh, he should never take the stand. That's crazy. And now you hear people saying, yeah, he should have took the stand. These flip-flopping motherfuckers, flip-flopping ass motherfuckers, they don't know shit. But nah, it's pretty simple. And hey, but just like you said, New, even if they'd have ate you up, and they probably would have ate him up right there. Because at the end of the day, you got to explain why you had a knife in your bag to begin with. One thing you got to, you got to work at the supermarket later on. You working in the stock room. Hey, man, I keep a box cutter for work. You know what I'm saying? That's just part of my work tools. I'm a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. We always keep a pocket knife. You know? It's not the case. Like, that's not the case. So they likely would have ate him up. But you kind of had to do that, you know, when it comes to that. So, look, I believe that his attorneys dropped the ball every which way. They dropped the ball with their defense once they took it to trial. They dropped the ball with their ability to make deals. I believe once you take it to trial in a situation like this, you really don't have much of a chance. That's what it is. So people are like, oh, well, the prosecution didn't offer a plea. I'm like, no, there's no documented. You know, there's nothing documented about a plea. But even if they didn't offer one, your attorney damn sure should have requested something. You know, because you should know you have no chance with a damn jury. All right. And also, is your lawyer skilled in jury selection? So I would need 3 things right there. And you got a year to prepare for the damn case. Like, you had a year to prepare for the trial if there's going to be one. So I'm spending at least 6 months interviewing the lawyers if I have to. I need a lawyer that has a track record in self-defense cases like this. You know, self-defense cases like this. I need a lawyer that can make deals. You know what I'm saying? Knows the judge and or the damn DA. And also is skilled in jury selection. And I'm not a legal professional, and I know that. So, hey, if you can't show me that resume, get out. I'm not even going to hire you. I can't check that out right now. Hold on. Which one are you on? I'll check it out. See what you got there. But here, let's listen to some more of this interview.
Because he doesn't live rent-free in my head. I'm moving forward.
Is the again, I don't want you to gossip or whatever.
Hey, I just saw that link, bro. You ain't shit. Oh shit. Yo, this is a new age shit. Hold up. Damn, new you ain't shit, bro.
Theory, like the other kids that may have known him. Have you had any?
First of all, they didn't even call one character witness for him. But the most bad for him. Once the verdict was rendered, his family and other advocates got up and left. They left him by himself for sentencing and for victim impact statements. I was amazed. I actually felt a little bit sorry at that time because I was like, I can't believe you are up here by yourself and you're fixing to go to prison and they abandoned you. It speaks of their character, not mine.
Get in the fight.
Look, I knew he was cooked as soon as I saw that what was that? What's his name? Dominique Williams. As soon as that ambulance chasing activist came, said, look, we not taking a plea, and boom, he tried to racialize it and everything else. I was like, you done. And then when they said you taking this shit to trial, nah, man, I'd have had to fire them motherfuckers, man. But look, here's the deal. I believe that once they issued that $1 million bond, and that lawyer came in and gave him the pitch and shit and let him know, look, man, the first thing we can know, you don't even have to worry about pulling that give, send, go money out, and paying that bond. We'll get that shit lowered. Look, man, a paralegal fresh out of law school could have got that bond lowered. That wasn't nothing. That wasn't nothing, bro. That wasn't nothing. Okay, anybody could have did that, but I think the family fell for that pitch right there. That was the mistake.
Of why I do have sympathy for Carmelo Anthony. I think he had horrific parenting and horrific parents. And I think that's been shown. That they can't even, if they can't comprehend what he did wrong, how are they able to explain to him what right and wrong so that he would even know? And then to abandon him at that darkest hour, sentencing, impact statements, and all that, it feels to me, and I don't know, I'm a bit.
Say it, Jason. Say it. The cash cow. The well ran dry. It's over. No more give, send, go. No more free money. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's what I felt. That's what I felt like. Now I could be way off base, but that was what I felt. Was like he's no more use of you. Now you're done.
I don't think they're done using him.
Oh no, they're not.
I don't think the cash cow has run dry. I actually think their part.
Well, their go send go was shut down.
Got you, but they're going to do other things. And again,
I know they've already put out how they've already requested through Venmo, Zelle, Cash App. I mean, they're still out there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say what it is. They're grifters. They are trying to financially profit off the murder of my son that your son killed, and that is despicable.
There's certainly grifters, but I think there's a reason why they brought Dominique Alexander, a common criminal, into this.
What's up, Black Pearl? Now I do agree with him there. There are a lot of grifters that are eating off this shit right now. There are a lot. So y'all can listen to all the bogus bullshit, militant, fake ass outrage and shit. But trust me, them people ain't gonna do a goddamn thing outside of what they say into a damn microphone. You know what I'm saying? Some of them even went down to the courthouse and tried to get a viral moment, on, you know what I'm saying, and reported on shit. But they ain't gonna do a fucking thing. They're trying to make a couple dollars. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. So that's the game. Congrats, Black Pearl. You know what I'm saying? New York Knicks, NBA world champion. And champions of the NBA basketball world 2026. Shout out to Black Pearl.
I think
we've been rocking with them boys for a long time.
There will be speculation on my part, all this, but they're going to start 501c3s and other charitable looking deals to invite people to send. Like to me, that none of this stuff is on accident. Him showing up, looking for conflict with a knife, hiring a Dominique Alexander within. I just saw an interview. This guy was hired within 2 days of this deal. 2 days in, why? Who?
They got bad advice from somebody, and they took it and they listened to it, and they believed what they were being fed. They were taking it. I feel like they were taken advantage of, but that's their fault. And
yes, I agree with him on that. Carmelo Anthony's family was taken advantage of, but hey, I kept trying to tell people that's what it is. The world will always punish you for what you do not know. You know, just like the world punished his son, you know, the stars, whatever, punished his son and his whole entire family for what he didn't know. Because I'm pretty sure if your son knew that boy had a knife in his bag, he wouldn't have put his hands on him. But he didn't know that. So that's why he just got all handsy, you know, that day. You know? So they really didn't know what they were dealing with either. That's why they hired an ambulance chasing allowed an ambulance chasing activist to speak to them in the public, and a blood-sucking, thirsty-ass lawyer that really didn't know what the fuck he was doing or didn't care to really do much as far as getting that boy some kind of reduced sentence or something. You know, trying to make a fucking deal, select the right jury, or even give them a proper defense if they did choose to take it to trial. So there's a lot of people that don't know shit. That's why one of them's dead now, and that's why the other one is serving a 35-year sentence.
I'm sorry you chose to go down this path where you want to make it about race and have an advocate who's a convicted felon who claims to be a minister. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, that would be the last person in the world I would want representing me if my son just created this heinous act of murdering someone by stabbing me in the heart at a track meet. And then for them to throw me out of the press conference. So I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, but asked to leave, and I left without stabbing anyone.
How did you pull that off? I mean,
look, as far as the press conference, I remember when that happened, and they were well within their rights to ask him to leave. But I didn't agree with them asking him to leave because I understood. I'm like, that's a grieving father. So just let him chill, you know, let him chill. I don't think that was taken into consideration in court. You know, if that was taken into consideration for the sentencing, and they can prove that in some way, shape, or form, then hey, that's going to do wonders in the Court of Appeals. It shouldn't have. So when he's saying that's what got them kicking you out of a press conference, you know, after the case is over, after that boy's already been arrested and charged, you know, arrested, charged, and arraigned. If something that happened after that had nothing to do with the accused was taken into consideration when sentencing him, yeah, that's nothing to brag about. You know, so I didn't really agree with that. I thought they could have just I don't see what the big deal was. You know, just let him chill. You know, just let him chill. You didn't even have to acknowledge him. You know, you didn't even have to acknowledge him when he was at that damn press conference. Just keep holding your press conference. You know what I'm saying? If anything, you know, you tell the people that are manning shit, whoever the hell is in charge of security there, hey, make sure, you know, have them whisper, hey, he's not to be touched. You know, if he starts to cause a problem, then, you know, you have him removed. But in the meantime, he's not to be touched. If he's going to sit there quietly, that's it, whatever. But we ain't going to give him a microphone to speak. You know, that's it, because that's their press conference. You want to speak, hold your own press conference. You know, that's it. But I wouldn't have kicked him out of that.
That was amazing. You know, my arm was in a sling. They thought I had a gun. I had complete shoulder replacement. I'm like, I couldn't fight a 12-year-old. That, I mean, dude, I'm 61. I don't fight. That's the craziest. I've learned. When I'm 18, of course, yeah, I fought. But back then, we just fought with these. We didn't bring weapons. I mean, we used to bring. This is how crazy. I used to tell my boys this, because my boys and I, we hunt and fish a lot. And I used to tell them, we would go hunting before school, and we would put our shotguns in our gun rack, in our truck, drive to school, park in the parking lot. Coaches would even say, Metcalf, y'all get anything this morning? Nah, coach, we're going back after practice. All right, see you at practice. And our guns set in our car, playing in the open all day. And we go hunt in the afternoon. Did anybody ever think about shooting someone? Nope. Never crossed our mind. We weren't programmed that way. I knew this. If I did something wrong, I was going to, I'd have to answer to the principal. That's nothing. I would have to answer to my mom and dad. There were times I didn't want to go home because I knew what was coming, because I'd messed up. And, you know, but my parents, you know, they raised me the best they could. And I feel like, you know, now, because when I was 18, I thought they were the dumbest people in the world. They didn't know anything. I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. By the time I reached age 30, I looked back and thought, wow, you know, my parents weren't as dumb as I thought. And even to this day, I can look back and go, okay, I understand this now a lot better, especially now that I'm a father. Because once that alone changes your entire life. And it's the biggest blessing that I could ever ask for. And Austin was the biggest blessing. And Hunter, I mean, I had two of the same. It was just amazing that God created this opportunity for me. And yes, he cut my son's life short, but God needed him more than we did, I guess. So I won't get that.
Well, yes and no. You know, actions cause reactions. And again, as wrong as it was for Carmelo Anthony to bring a knife to school, it was wrong for your son to put his hands on Carmelo. So you got two wrongs here. Like I said, again, that's why one's doing 35 years and the other one's no longer with us. But all I hear about is the wrong on one side. I don't hear the wrong on the other side. And that's not cool. I don't like that. And that's the only issue I have with the way Whitlock is framing this interview. Like, let me ask, like that's just one question I would have for Jeff. What do you have to say about, I mean, have you ever taught your children to keep their hands to themselves? Because I know I teach my children that if you feel like you got to take a knife somewhere, just don't go there. You know, that's what I teach my children. But I also taught them at a really young age. I didn't wait until they turned 18, 19 years old to keep their hands to themselves. When did you teach your son that? And why do you think he didn't listen to that teaching that day? Would you agree that your son made a mistake? Because I think we can all agree that Carmelo Anthony made a mistake by plunging a knife into your son's chest, without a doubt. But would you agree that your son made a mistake by trying to make another human being move and use his hands to do it on school grounds? He didn't just make a mistake, he made a fatal mistake. Like I say, two things can be true at the same time. Two people can be wrong at the same time. Like I say, just because one person's guilty don't make the other one innocent.
Answer till I get up there. I won't get the answer of why till I get up there. I really have no idea what was going through his mind that day. I really wish he would have got up on the stand and just told us, but we'll never know.
Would have been a lie if he had taken the stand. So,
the DA would probably have ripped him apart. That's why they probably didn't want to put him up there, because the witnesses that the defense called, the DA demolished them. He showed them. He showed them the video, which you can't deny. Here it is. Were you mistaken? Yes. I didn't recall that, as I thought it was different. Well, guess what? That's a huge trauma that's happening in front of all these teens. It's 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, dude. They can't comprehend. Your frontal lobe's not even developed till you're 25 as a man. They can't comprehend, and the scarring and the mental anguish that they were going to have to live with and have to get help for, so they can function and not have it create problems for them emotionally or psychologically down the line. That's what I'm worried about. I mean, I have to worry about Hunter. I cannot imagine my twin brother dying in front of me, and I'm holding his, trying to hold the blood in. Like I said, I told Hunter this about the communication part, how proud I am of him, because I've been driving it into his head about communication. It's a skill set you have to learn. It's going to affect your job, your life, your relationships, everything. You need to learn how to articulate your words and communicate in an effective way so other people can understand your beliefs, your feelings, and your emotions. I was worried about him getting up there on that stand, because I went before him and I became emotional. I did. I was full of rage.
One of the greatest moments. I love what you said. I'm glad you let that out at the Impact in the courtroom. I thought it was great.
I mean, it was all. I went way off script. I mean, I wrote some stuff down, but I just put the book down and just started talking like now. I don't write things down. I speak from the hip, I guess. Once again, man, it's just God. I'm just a vessel. He uses me. I'm like this little puppet. He actually has his hand up inside my mouth. He's working it. I don't know how the words come out sometimes, but I'm just glad that Hunter and Austin both know God, because I tried many times when they were young. They would fight me. They didn't want to go to church. I still went to church, but when they got around their friends who went to church, all of a sudden it became cool. And I said, okay, God, I couldn't do it. Thank you. You're working through other people. Then they became Christians and then leaders in their small group. And then Hunter was baptized after his brother's death. I mean, I'm just very, very blessed that God has blessed me, that they too can understand what it is to have God in your life. Because without God in your life, you're lost. I'm sorry. That's my belief.
Was Hunter able to play his senior year of high school football, and how did that?
Oh my God! First of all, yes, he slid over because him and his brother were linebackers. Austin was middle, Hunter was outside. He slid over to middle, took over that responsibility, voted team captain, voted team MVP, won all district. Led the district in tackles and missed the game due to a concussion. But the most emotional was our first home game. Hunter come running out of the tunnel first, holding Austin's jersey. And I don't understand and can't even encompass how strong that boy is. And then they hold his jersey, they lock arms, and they walk together to the coin flip. And of course, everyone before the memorial had made a motto that said all in. All in. A stands for Austin. The 2 1s stand for, his number was 11. I stands for integrity. and N stands for never quit. So that was the motto. It's been adopted. We've also have set up a scholarship in Austin's name for Memorial High School athletes. We were able to give one away this year, and it will continue every year from here on out. I am going to keep my son's name alive and remembered for as long as I'm here. He has a legacy. And what happens is, so I get the yearbook this year, and it says more than just on the cover. I open the book. The very first page is a picture of Hunter running out of the tunnel with his jersey. He says, it's not just a jersey or a number, it's a legacy. That was his quote. And they put that on the very first page of the yearbook. So as far as Hunter, that boy has more strength and mental fortitude than I've ever seen in any human being ever. And
again, there are a lot of lessons to be taught here. What I've noticed in this particular situation, both families, they haven't really, nobody seems to really understand the lessons to be taught. Look, if you're a Carmelo Anthony side, you got to understand that mistakes have consequences. Sometimes the consequences are they last a long time. And also if you're on the Austin Metcalf side, understand that actions have reactions and mistakes have consequences. That is what it is. Just because somebody gets sentenced to 35 years does not make it okay for you to put your hands on them. Like, even listening to this entire interview and even the other interviews that I've heard him say, that I've heard him have, I've never once heard, Jeff Metcalf say, I wish my son would have just left that boy the fuck alone that day. Didn't say nothing to him, just went and grabbed the teacher or somebody that was on staff, or just not did shit. And I never heard, Carmelo's parents just say, hey, man, I wish our son just would have never brought that damn knife in there. Because you don't bring a knife without the intent to use the motherfucker. And nobody sword fights with a knife. Okay? You don't challenge somebody to a duel and then start fencing with a fucking knife. So that's it. There are a lot of mistakes made, but I don't hear either side acknowledging their own mistakes. And that's why the cycle continues. So now, Carmelo Anthony's, he's got to deal with the consequences to his actions. You got to try by jury. You've been found guilty. You're going to do at least 17 and a half years. At least. Because you brought a knife to a track meet and then used it when an unarmed white boy touched you. That's a fact. All right. Austin Metcalf is no longer with us because he didn't understand the basic concept of keep your hands to yourself. And don't do administration's job. Don't try to do a teacher's job. Don't take rules and policies into your own hands. Don't try to be the track meet police when that's not your job. The tent police.
I myself, I thought I was supposed to die 10 years ago. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. They told me, look, man, it's 50-50 chance. If it gets below your neck, you're going to die. And I had 2 7-year-old boys grabbing each leg going, Daddy, Daddy, please don't die. I told God, I can't leave my sons. Please save me. And he did. I beat the odds. I'm still in remission. And I would go through cancer 1,000,000 times again if I could just hug my son once. This has been the hardest thing. They always tell you, God only gives you what you can handle. I'm going to have to question his assessment skills sometimes because my plate is full, bro. I don't need any more. But what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, I should be able to bench press about 1,000,000 pounds by now. So, and I'm not the only person in the world that has tragedy or trauma. I'm not special, but if you lose someone the way I lost a son, it is a small percentage of the population that happens to them that way. I'm not trying to minimize anybody else's loss. They all hurt, they're all painful, and we all grieve in a different way. And there's no manual or time frame or telling me move on, get over it, time heals. No, it doesn't. I have to learn how to live without my son. But my counselor told me this: you do not learn to live without your son. You need to learn to live for your son. And that struck me. And that's when I said, you know what? I am going to do something. I don't know what it is, but I am going to do something to carry on his legacy, spread the word, and try to contribute to society in a positive way.
If you're a homeowner like me, protect your title from theft. The FBI has reached out, expressed condolences or any level of support. Because I sit here and think that I think of Barack Obama reaching out to Trayvon Martin's family or people like that. And I'm just wondering if maybe the Trump administration or just someone that unexpected has reached out and offered you condolences, congratulations on just the way you handled the trial and got a justice verdict. Have you heard from anyone?
I mean, I'd love to hear from Trump. Don't get me wrong, but
we're going to try to make that happen. All right, we'll continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So indirectly, there's been some invites to a couple things, but not one person that I would consider, quote, famous or high-ranking official or anything like that. No one has contacted me directly and said anything to me. I think a lot of people are afraid, to reach out and say something because they're afraid. And it's just like when I had cancer, half my friends disappeared and they said, man, we're sorry. We didn't know what to say. And that's okay. I'm like, dude, it's okay. You trust me. It's okay. I don't hold it against you. It's fine. But as far as, like I said, there's been a ton of people who I don't know who have sent gifts, messages, texts, phone calls from all races. And I mean, it's been very helpful in the healing process, knowing that there are other people out there that see it the way I see it. Because I feel like, okay, I'm biased. My opinion is jaded, but I still try to be objective. And I just want to be the best person I can be to show my son, to give him a leg up, to get started before I pass away, so he can be a member of society that contributes and raises a family and raises his kids the way they should be raised. That's all I can pray for.
Jeff, I'm telling you, I think there's a calling, there's a mission in here. Particularly, you've got a passion for sports, not that extends, obviously with your kids, but also you're just a sports fan.
Dude, the Pistons and the Bulls, that's basketball. We didn't have flagrant fouls. Come on, Bill Laimbeer had been kicked out every game.
But I think, and this is me, this is my desires, that I've seen so much racial conflict being injected into sports. And I
Yes.
think you could be a part of, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. And from my perspective, I'm not dragging you into my opinion, but these are my opinions. It's like,
I'm welcome to hear it.
yeah, years ago, the racism was against black people. And I'm just telling you, today it's against
It was.
white people. And we need to speak against it. Period. End of story. The way we spoke against it when it was against black people, we need to be speaking against it today as it is against white people. And
Racism is still against black people. Okay. Now, again, words have meaning. You know, so, and Jason Whitlock is supposed to be extremely good with his words because he's been a journalist, columnist, you know, he's a great writer and shit. So he of all people should understand the difference between bigotry and racism. Okay. So when you want to talk about things, when you're talking about racism, there were actually policies put into place, such as, you know, the over policing of urban communities. Okay, white folks have not experienced that. Okay, redlining, predatory lending practices that specifically targeted it, black folks. Okay, the school to prison pipeline. And the list goes on and on. Racial profiling. All that shit. You know? So as far as a group of people that have very little to no power to commit, you know, acts of racism, it's not really possible to carry it out. Now, are there black bigots? Absolutely. Absolutely. That have fucked up opinions and they're able to spew those opinions on the internet and all over social media and on television and shit like that. Yes, that would make them bigots. That would mean they're committing bigotry. But racism? No. Try again. Words have meanings. You know? Just like I would say with Jeff Metcalf's racially charged rant when he mentions things like watermelon felon and shit like that. It's not racism. That's bigotry. You know? And the reason why I like to distinguish the two and understand that words have meaning is because I don't want to let actual racists off the hook. Because when you start confusing bigotry for racism, or you start confusing, you know, let's say inappropriate behavior for, you know, predatory behavior and shit like that, you know, then you actually let real racists, real predators off of the hook. You don't want to blur the lines. You want to make that shit clear as day. But, you know, people with microphones, cameras, and social media platforms, for the most part, don't understand that concept. And that's one of the reasons why people can get extremely charged up, you know, because they understand that certain words trigger differently than other words. So they like to use them out of context.
I've reached out to you in various ways over the past year because I instantly like, holy cow, this man and what he's doing, it's incredible. And I just wanted to reach out and pat you on the back and say, keep going, man. God's got you. And clearly the Holy Spirit is working through you. But I've also, have you ever heard of the kid up in Akron, Ohio that got murdered at LeBron James's high school? Ethan Lyman was his name. And I've had some communication with his father. And again, this is kind of on a playground. It's a different type of deal, but it's the same thing. Ethan Lyman was a high school athlete that was murdered. And the guys, to my belief, got away with it. They got a slap on the wrist. And I've been trying to encourage Ethan Lyman's father. Hey, you got to get out there and speak on this stuff because it's happening everywhere. And I see, again, I don't want to drag you into my controversial opinions, but I see it with the Michael Brown and the Trayvon Martin. These are hoaxes that have been put, and I've seen their parents put on platforms and going out and speaking and doing this and that. And it's bogus and it's BS. And we need you and Ethan Lyman's father. We need, because he's a bold Christian as well. We need you guys out there speaking, and obviously I need to continue speaking, and the people that come on my show need to continue to speaking. But we've got this anti-white racism.
Jason Whitlock, now we got to hold you accountable. Why is it okay that Mr. Jeff Metcalf can speak, you know, after his son was stabbed in the chest, after he didn't keep his hands to himself, what you believe was unjust, and Trayvon Martin's parents shouldn't be able to speak when their son was shot to death, you know, because he was beating the shit out of a grown-ass man. The kind of similar situations is just the law is different in a different state and shit, you know. But at the same time, I mean, if one set of parents should be able to speak, why shouldn't the other ones? You know, so I don't like, you know, that rhetoric that Mr. Jason Whitlock is pushing right there, because it kind of comes off as, look, if you're a conservative Christian, you should be able to speak, but if you're not, you shouldn't be able to speak. Now, had he said, look, just like they're out there speaking, hey, you should be able to speak too. I'm a firm believer in that. Hell, anybody that's lost a child due to either racially charged violence or, you know, some kind of racially charged case, or, you know, whatever, some politicized, racialized, you know, court case, whatever the case may be, everybody should be able to speak, and maybe I can come to some common ground. I don't know. But to say that one person should be able to speak and the other one shouldn't, or to even imply it, that's extremely biased. And I'd like to know what that's rooted in. I'm going to spin that back so y'all can hear it. He doesn't use the word to or also, not at all. That's what I'm saying. Words have meaning. You know, and Jason Whitlock is very good with his words. That's why it makes me wonder, like, where he's coming from with this shit.
Seen their parents put on opinions, but I see it with the Michael Brown and the Trayvon Martin. These are hoaxes that have been put, and I've seen their parents put on platforms and going out and speaking and doing this and that, and it's bogus and it's BS. And we need you.
It's bogus and it's BS that those parents get to speak, but it's not bogus and BS that you put this guy's parent on your platform to speak. Why shouldn't everybody be able to speak and we can compare and contrast the two and see what the differences are in each situation?
You and Ethan Liming's father, we need, because he's a bold Christian as well. We need you guys out there speaking, and obviously I need to continue speaking, and the people that come on my show need to continue to speaking. But we've got this anti-white racism that is behind. It's why people
Anti-white bigotry, you mean? This anti-white or anti-black or anti-Hispanic bigotry or anti-Asian bigotry. Bigotry, you know, if you want to speak on bigotry as a whole, let's keep it consistent. Let's keep it consistent. Because what I'm taking from that is, hey, bigotry, or what he likes to call racism, is okay as long as it's not anti-white. That's what people are going to take from that shit. No?
or have this illogical deal that, like, yeah, Carmelo was justified. He was pushed. We know they wouldn't be saying this if the racist roles were reversed. We know that. And so let's cut it out. And we can't have a society where kids can't push each other or have verbal.
No, kids can't push each other. That doesn't mean that, hey, it should cost you your life when you push somebody or you push the wrong person on the wrong day at the wrong time. Because that's just what it is. You know? That's been going on since the beginning of time. You know, you can lose your life just by being in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time. You know, somebody can hit you with a fucking semi truck just because they've been driving a little too long and they tired today. You know? Shit can happen. You know? But all of that, oh, kids shouldn't be able to push each other. How about kids keep their hands to themselves? And also, kids don't bring knives to track meets. Like I say, Carmelo Anthony is not justified in putting a knife in that boy's chest by any means at all. I'm going to continue to say that shit. But no, Austin Metcalf is not justified in putting his hands on Carmelo either. So as guilty as Carmelo Anthony is, as stated in a court of law by a jury of his quote-unquote peers, no, Austin Metcalf ain't innocent.
Verbal disagreements without a knife or a gun being drawn.
De-escalate.
Yes.
De-escalate. Impulse control. Emotional IQ. We have to.
And keep your fucking hands to yourself. Yeah. And keep your hands to yourself. I agree with him wholeheartedly. He's just leaving shit out. You know? And it's awfully convenient that you leave the part out where your boy did wrong. De-escalate. Impulse control. Emotional IQ. And keep your hands to yourself. You know? The best way to solve a problem is to prevent one. The easiest way to prevent a physical altercation is to keep your hands to yourself. You know? So yes, Carmelo Anthony made multiple mistakes that day. So did your son. You know, and because of both of their mistakes, one lost his freedom and the other one lost his life.
To teach these young people, we can't let them just go out on their own because society is full of crap. As you said, the music, the culture, the things that they're fed. They're being programmed. This is acceptable. This is the way you should think. No, it's not. And if you're a parent, you need to understand, you need to control the content of what your child is exposed to. Now, that's really hard in today's world. Back in our day, it was real simple. You're grounded, go to your room. I'm stuck. No phones, no video game, nothing. I'm stuck in my room. God, that was cruel punishment. But I just hope the world can do better.
The other thing that, because I'm familiar with Frisco, Texas, a buddy of mine invested in property in Frisco, Texas, but let's
smart
say
guy,
half dozen years, and literally I considered and should have gone into it with him. Frisco's a great area, but people think, hey, I'm moving away from the trouble. I'm out in Frisco, Texas, and this toxic culture.
At one point, we were the safest city in America.
Yes,
we hung our hat on that.
Yes, but this toxic culture, it's going Frisco, Texas, wherever. You can't move away from it. You're gonna have to confront it, or you'll be like me. I was like, man, I'm thinking about moving to Idaho.
Gets cold up there. Too cold for me.
I agree. Look, I left LA and moved to the South. So, Jeff, I just want to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being you. Thank you for letting God work through you. Thank you for having the courage to take all the bullets. Because Jeff, I saw it really upset me. I saw conservatives criticizing you for not being more unforgiving towards Carmelo, or for not attacking.
Jake Lang?
Yeah.
That jackass?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When I shut him down.
And now they're going to speak on that, right? Because I said this a long time ago, that to a lot of these far right-wing conservatives, conservative means anti-black. And when the black folks become conservatives, to them, that means coon. So when he comes up here stating that he's conservative, Christian, but he don't just want to be like on some white lives matter, white nationalist, far right, that this is the problem with black folks shit. Yeah, motherfuckers had a problem with that. Now you need to help us push our agenda. That's what you see on the Megyn Kellys and of course, the other conservative coon channels. You're gonna see that. That's why you hear, Jason Whitlock say what he says, but he's never gonna call it out, because this shit is fueled from two sides of the same damn coin. So just like any other coin, you just keep flipping it, and every now and then it lands on one side, and every now and then it lands on the other, and it's a weighted coin. The shit lands on one side a little more often than the other, but it is what it is.
That was classic. He thought I was going to jump on board and be all gung-ho, and I sent my friend Bruce Carter up there because the DA told me, you do not go to that rally. Not only that, the Frisco School District allowed them to have the rally 3 weeks after my son was killed at the same.
He's talking about the White Lives Matter rally that was held at that school, pretty much right on the damn, right on the track, right outside the track, and the bleachers where the stabbing occurred. Yeah, what up, Trinity? Yeah, it was a White Lives Matter rally. So trust me, those folks are no different than the ambulance chasing activists, that made sure once they got a hold of this information about what went down, they went and saw an opportunity to make some bread and push an agenda. So both of these families were pretty much being used as pawns, with this whole situation. Now, I will say this much. I don't believe Jeff Metcalf fell for it to the level that Carmelo Anthony's family did, you know, or else he probably would have made some more money, and you'd probably saw him on more platforms and shit. So he didn't fall for it, at least not as hard as Carmelo's did, because that's likely why they're surprised by the damn verdict, and they're still up there spewing that bullshit. Carmelo's family, I'm gonna say it again, they really did drop the ball. You know, they dropped the ball with the legal representation that they hired. They dropped the ball, lost sight of shit, and I get it. A lot of them ambulance chasing activists like this Dominique Alexander, and you know, these lawyers and your Charleston Whites and folks like that, they can speak with a lot of conviction, and then when you hear all of that shit, you know, you can, you know, if you don't have a strong mind and you can't see the forest through the trees, I guess you can fall for it, you know. But in Carmelo's family, for whatever reason, you know, they got caught up in a lot of the slogans and the talk instead of focusing on the task at hand, which is trying to get their boy out of that cage as soon as possible. So maybe after they got bond, maybe they thought that their son was just free, you know, at that point, and didn't realize that he was going to stay in trial and he was likely going to fucking lose. Like, they couldn't help him in that courtroom. They couldn't help him in that jury deliberation room. All of that shit they talking is just shit they talking. You know? So like I said, you need a lawyer that can make deals, first and foremost. Good lawyers know the law. Great lawyers know the judge. Straight up. You need a lawyer that can negotiate deals right here. Because I could have told them that, and I'm not even a legal professional. But when this went down and you could pull my streams from over a year ago, I said it. That boy is about to do time. Whether you take this shit to trial or not, he's going to do time. It's just a question of how much. It's highly unlikely. Because, of course, I mean, you got a trial by jury. You know, you got legal representation. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you the odds of him walking out of that courtroom a free man with a self-defense case are extremely slim. Extremely slim. And because the charge is deletion in the first degree, I was like, that boy facing 40 years. So you got to do something, whatever the hell you can do. But I mean, just looking at Texas state law. And the fact that they already started with the normal shit as far as giving your boy $1 million bond and everything else. You know, I mean, you can't like your chances in trial. You can't. So you need to make a deal. Somehow, some way. And that's what people are trying to tell me. Oh, well, the prosecution didn't offer one. Fuck out of here. You know? Why would they offer it if you don't request it? Like, what? This is up to your legal counsel. If I don't have counsel that can make deals, that's it, man. You're not hired. Do you have a track record of making deals or fighting cases like this? No, this is my first one. Or yeah, I fought a couple but lost them. You know, I fought 3 of them and lost 2 of them. Fuck out of here. We're done. You know? I need a Lincoln lawyer. Y'all remember that movie Matthew McConaughey and shit? I need a Lincoln lawyer. You know? I got $600,000 in the damn Give, Send, Go account. Who want this money? I need somebody that can make deals. You know, you trying to get this boy out of that cage by the time he's 30. He's about to turn 18. I need him out by the time he's 30. Who can do it? I don't want to hear all that. Hey, you can get him out, like you can get him off as a free man. Let me hear your pitch. Nah. If I was a juror, I wouldn't be buying that. Sorry, no, can't hire you. You know, that's it. But they didn't do that. They listened to damn ambulance chasing activists that let this shit go down. And then, well, whatever the verdict comes at. Hey, if they say guilty, we'll just cry racism. Fuck it. In the meantime, your kid's in a cage for the next 2 decades. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. At least I built my platform. Fuck out of here, man. They fell for the oak dope, man. The soapbox hustle.
Same exact location. I do want to speak about Frisco ISD real quickly. Frisco ISD failed on so many different levels. First, they okayed Jake Lane. Second, they didn't have any protocol in place as far as safety measures. Athletes don't go through metal detectors, only spectators. They don't check anything. Then, when my ex-wife writes a letter to them, they don't respond for 32 days. I have emails that were sent to the superintendent, Mr. Waltrip, Dr. Waltrip, who has since retired. Imagine that. But they were emails from Dominique and the Freeman Group, and they were threatening protest if you don't give him a diploma. Well, I pulled out the Frisco ISD manual and said, look right here, expulsion, murder. Okay, he had the grades. Okay, that's fine. Let's turn the page. This says attendance policy, 90%. He didn't come back to school after April 2nd. He didn't go to alternative school after April 2nd. He didn't meet the criteria to graduate. Now, they gave him a diploma, but he didn't walk the stage. I was up in arms about that. You're telling me you're the city of Frisco and you're saying, hey, it's okay if you kill somebody. We'll still give you a diploma. And then I finally got a meeting with this person, and he looked me in the eye, and all he could say was, well, we followed the law. We followed the law. They were so scared. They wouldn't even work with the DA much. They didn't know what to do. Then we'll let the public view this video. And then that became a fiasco. And that was an ordeal. Then when me and Megan go up to them and ask, we want Austin's name read out loud, and we would like a posthumous diploma given to his brother. They said no. And I told him, I said, sir, I'm going to be as polite as I can be right now. When I walk out of this room, I'm going to get on my phone. I'm calling every social influencer, every media outlet, every reporter that I know. And I'm going to tell them what you just told me. I said, you have egg on your face already from 3 weeks ago when they caught this little elementary teacher spying on boys with a camera. Frisco ISD, you have egg on your face from this whole trial from me. Y'all are failing. And by the time I had gotten home, they called me and said, Mr. Metcalf, we've reconsidered. We're going to honor your request. All I said was, you know what? Thank you very much for getting your head out of your ass and doing the right thing for once. That was my exact statement. But Frisco ISD, here's the thing we need to learn about in Texas. This is very, very important because this is one of the things I will work towards. It's called the Texas Tort Claim Act. It provides public schools with sovereign immunity. Basically, and it caps it at 100,000. Basically, it says you can't sue the school district. And if you do, it's only worth 100 grand. That don't even cover your attorney fees. Sovereign immunity needs to be abolished. They are responsible for the negligent homicide of my son. They didn't have safety protocols in measure. They didn't have proper security. They didn't have proper medical. There were so many blunders on their part. And I will go back years. I know you remember this, the Uvalde shootings. 19 kids were shot in a school. Not one parent could sue the school district. Do you think that's fair? No. They need to be held accountable. They don't need protection, just like a police officer has qualified immunity, but they can lose that if they violate civil rights. Well, if a boy gets killed, I'm sorry. And it's on you for not having the protocols in place to protect our kids. Because when I pay my tax dollars and I send my child to school, I expect him to come home alive. That's not a whole lot to ask. They failed. My son is dead. And Texas Congress does not reconvene till 2027. I'm going to get my ducks in a row. I'm going to form an army. And I will try to get that law changed. And it's going to be called the Austin Metcalf law. And
Yeah, he can try. He can try. I don't like his chances in a case like this. And keep in mind, I speak objectively over here. So if you want some kind of, racially charged, biased, subjective opinion, you got to go to one of the other channels for that shit. But I'm going to speak objectively. He can try, but you're not. Number one, you spend your tax dollars to send your kid to school. Your kid wasn't at school. Your kid was at a track meet, which is a school function. There were multiple schools there. Number one. Number two, your son wasn't even running track that day. So it's really just a voluntary thing that he did on a Saturday. Like that kind of is what it is. That's up to like the track program and some other shit, to make sure that, because they have to pay for all of that. The school doesn't have to provide all of the extra security means and measures and all of that other shit. And second, your case likely isn't going to stand a leg in court, because even though Carmelo Anthony didn't walk for self-defense because it wasn't proven that he was provoked, even though I believe it was proportionality that what really convicted him, there is some claim that your son was the provocateur in that, by actually going up to him and putting his hands on him. So you don't have much of a case. I know you're feeling a certain type of way, you're grieving, and you're looking to somebody to blame other than your son, and your son for using his hands in a situation where he really was not, authorized to use his hands. And you don't want to blame yourself for not teaching your son to keep his hands to himself. And, like blaming Carmelo doesn't really mean much of shit, because he's already been convicted in the court of law and he's going to be doing 35 years. So now you're looking for somebody else to blame. I mean, I would hope it works out for you. I hope school pays you something, Hope school pays you something, because it's going to be tough for you to sell real estate and shit out in Frisco from now on. And you did have to bury your child. I hope they pay you something. I would hope that you win, but I don't think your case has a leg to stand on with the school district. That's going to be pretty fucking tough. But if they will pay you out up to $100,000, or maybe just settle with you to get you to shut the fuck up, hey, I'm rooting for you, bro. For real.
Whether I die before it happens, I don't know, but I guarantee every ounce, every bone in my body will be put towards making changes in this world, whether it's public speaking, whether it's congressional legislation. I just want to help people the rest of my life.
Jeff, and I want to assist you in that mission.
Now, what he might be able to do is get some school policies changed, as far as like any backpacks that come in have to be clear ones, something like that, clear backpacks, or just no backpacks are allowed in these functions, unless you're an athlete and you take it like into the locker room or whatever. I don't know. Maybe you can get some policies changed. But as far as a lawsuit, like, good luck. I mean, you're just going to have to keep threatening them with some bad press, and maybe they'll settle with you.
We will remain in contact. I have your number now. We can talk about basketball, football, whatever. And, man, I love you.
Congratulations to the Knicks. Sorry.
That is it.
Mavericks never should have got rid of Jalen Brunson, but whatever.
Smart
Jeff,
man.
thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Jason. I'm always a fan for a long time, brother. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. All right, that's Jeff Metcalf.
Right. Now, that's all of Jeff Metcalf's interview, but I'm going to review the next half an hour of this, because Jason Whitlock actually does have a panel, come up there. A woman that's usually on his show, I forget her name, but he's going to introduce her, and another dude comes up, and they make some decent points.
It's a great conversation. All right, welcome back. I'm live. That was taped yesterday. an amazing conversation with Jeff. I think it puts him in the proper light. I think it's been different than any of his public conversations in the aftermath or even leading up to the trial. Jeff Metcalf, I think an amazing father, a role model for us all. I want to get your reaction. I want to stick around. Shamika's going to join me. Or let's bring Shamika up. I want to get Shamika's reaction to the interview. I want to invite you all through chat. I'm reading the chat live. I'm going to be a little bit distracted while I try to keep up with what you guys are saying in the chat. But also, if you want to contribute with a super chat, and we'll read your chat live on air. I know earlier we had someone earlier do a super chat, but I'll respond to any questions you might have, any thoughts you want to pass along. I do want to say that, for those of you that have been with me and us for a long time, you notice we've been making some changes. We've been putting more effort into the Harmony channel, and that's because we're going the independent route. We're making some adjustments here on how I do things, how I do my business here. We're going to be a bit more independent moving into the future. I will still be associated with the Blaze, but we're going to do more of an independent operation. I love my time with the Blaze and will enjoy keeping a relationship together, but things will be a bit different. And so, quite frankly, we'll be engaging with the audience a bit more. We'll be looking for, you guys to super chat if you want to help us as we move in a more independent direction. And so, Shamika, let's just start this conversation off with your reaction to my interview with Jeff Metcalf.
I thought the interview was excellent, Jason. For one, it was much shorter than the one that was on X with Sarah Fields. So I thought we got to see who Jeff was in a much quicker way. Also, I think that you had really good questions, whereas in comparison to some of the other interviews, he didn't really stay on track. Of course, he's a grieving man, and there's so much that he wants to share. He would love to talk about, Austin as a child. But I think the controlled environment was very good for him. And it allowed us to really get behind the idea of him being a public speaker, because I feel like he has a lot of things to say. When he talked about self-control and impulse control, these are things that people need to hear, because we've lost that. Point blank.
How about keep your hands to yourself as well? I can't argue with self-control, impulse control, emotional intelligence, all of that. I will not disagree with that. De-escalation. Yeah, very important. But how about keeping your fucking hands to yourself?
Period. You see so many of these videos where people are just not exercising self-control. So the idea that he wants to take this horrible thing and turn it into something good, I could actually see that as he was talking to you.
I think we just got a super chat from Virgil. I think that was Virgil. And Virgil, if you're not doing anything, hop on the Zoom or send Virgil the link, because I wouldn't mind. I sent Virgil the interview yesterday, and it looks like he rewatched it. And so, Virgil, we'd love to, have your take if you want to join us and hop on the Zoom. What did you? I found it fascinating that no one of any importance or celebrity has reached out to him. I found that fascinating. And I found it a bit troubling, and he made the point like, hey, I think some people are afraid. They don't want to, there's so much blowback. No one wants to deal with the blowback or the social media death threats or whatever. But I'm a tiny bit amazed that, conservatives haven't reached out and offered a lot of support to the Metcalf family.
Yeah, and especially in comparison to the Carmelo Anthony supporters, we've seen DL Hughley and some others, come out and pledge their support. I saw a comment from Breitbart where they said they believe that the judge underestimated Carmelo Anthony supporters and their BLM kind of ecosystem. And I was just thinking, I think it's been underestimated how retarded a lot of people are, because I don't think that people expected the.
First of all, let's just keep it 100. There ain't no Carmelo Anthony supporters. Those that are actually supporters of Carmelo Anthony, understand that, hey, maybe he was a little overcharged, therefore it came with an over sentencing. That's really about it. But, he had a right to legal representation. The community, the real support came with making sure that he was able to afford the best legal representation that money could buy. They made sure this was national news, so all over social media, so that way he wasn't railroaded through the bond system. And hey, he got a right to due process. He had that. That's a wrap. Like, that's really a wrap. There's nothing else that you can help him with at this point. So all of this other shit is a moot point. Like, it's worthless. It's worthless. And if you're a real supporter of Carmelo Anthony, because look, anybody can make a mistake. It only takes one split second to act irrationally, and you make a mistake that you regret for the rest of your life. It happens. I believe he's in that situation. And, Austin Metcalf made a mistake that he regretted for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, his life probably only lasted maybe another 15 minutes, after that, but, there's nothing else that you can do, at that point. Nothing else that you can do. So, like I said, if you really want to, if you're a real supporter, you'll advocate for people to stop listening to fucking activists and social media influencers when they're on trial for M1. And ambulance chasing lawyers and shit. When you're entitled to the best legal representation that money can buy, you got the resources to purchase it, hire the best legal representation that money can buy. Don't fall for bullshit, because these people on the internet popping all this shit ain't about to do a minute of time with your boy. So you lost when this shit went to trial. You lost. I've never been a resident in this state of Texas, but I can tell you that shit, this ain't gonna fare well. It's not. It's not a George Zimmerman type case. And it's in a totally different state. Number one, it's at school grounds, school function. There's lethal force used for a non-lethal threat. This is going to be tough to prove. Self-defense. If it's even possible. So you go to trial for this shit, man. You about to do 40. So a 35-year sentence. Oh, wow, that's too much. The fuck out of here. Anybody with common sense could have told you that shit was coming. Deal got to get made. That's it. That's your only option. A deal got to get made. You got to find a way to get first degree M off the fucking docket. That's it. Maybe you can get it to to manslaughter, which is the second-degree felony, maybe even negligent homicide. Hopefully you get that boy out in 10 or less, 12 or less. That's it. Whatever the fuck you got to do. You need a plea. You need something. I guess I need a new lawyer. Fuck this shit. You know, I need somebody that got some dirt on the DA. Maybe you can, you know what I'm saying, blackmail that motherfucker. I don't know. You know? We can do something to discredit the motherfuckers before the trial. I don't know. But I need new lawyer, whatever. This ain't gonna work. I need a lawyer that can make a deal. That's common sense. But you listening to Dominique Alexander, and an ambulance chasing activist and lawyer and shit, boom, this is what happened. Okay, you got $250,000 in bond, you got another $250,000 in legal fees, and you still lost. Have a nice day.
Polarization that we're actually seeing between black and white people after this verdict. I think it's a lot more in the news now than it was in the past year. Now that the verdict has come in, everybody has all of this evidence, you know, that was never seen in court, was never heard about until now after the verdict. So I think people will begin to reach out to him because it's very clear.
No, the fuck they won't. Nobody really wants to hear his side at this point, unless they just want some views on their channels and their platform. Everything's out, you know, at this point. Like people have already heard enough from him. So everybody that's listening to social media influencers regarding extra evidence and shit that didn't go to court and all of these interpretations and how the shit's gonna go with the Court of Appeals and everything else is bullshit. People are just looking for confirmation bias, and they want to hear what it is that they want to hear. That's it. They got their minds made up, and they want confirmation bias from influencers on the internet. Let them have that. None of that's going to get that boy out any sooner. None of it. Look, I remember I was taught, you know, a long time ago, because this is like, I done been cussed out on multiple panels from people that's like, I'm advocating for white supremacy and I'm not recognizing racism and this and that. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Okay, I understand how this world works because I live in it. I had to survive in it. Okay, and I don't kiss anybody's ass. Not no black person's ass, not no white person's ass. Nobody, not even the motherfucker to sign my checks. Fuck them. And I tell them that. That's one of my issues. I don't care. But I ain't gonna kiss y'all ass neither. Here's the deal. I was always taught that, hey, if I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a professional athlete, you know, an engineer, an accountant, an investment banker, even the president of the United States, that's just the way it's gonna fucking be, man. Like, I'm going to have to get not just an A, but a high A when it comes to a grade. In a lot of situations where that white boy counterpart I got, that's all they're gonna need is a C. It's the world that I live in. I was taught that at a very young age. And what was my first response at a young age, about 6 years old? But mom, auntie, that's not fair. Hey, that's your second lesson. Life is not fair. That's it. So in situations where they can just be good, you have to be best and better than your counterparts. That's it. You don't get all the margin for error and all of these second chances after making a mistake. But that's not fair. That's racist. That's life for you. If you understand that shit, looking at the sky, coming on the internet, complaining about it is not going to fix shit. You should just understand how to maneuver now. You know where all the damn potholes are. Don't just drive right over them or else you're going to bust a tire. Like the hell. That's it. Your A+ equals their C-. That's the way it is. Guys like Donald Trump, rich billionaires with millionaire daddies, and guys like George W. C students and shit, they could be the president of the United States. But a black dude like Barack Obama got to be a straight A student. That's what it is. You don't like the world you live in, take a flight to Mars. Or the moon or some shit. That's it. But I was also taught, I wasn't taught to be, because some people will hear shit like that and be like, look, man, that's not fair. The world is just against us. We have no chance. Nah. And shout out to my grandparents. You know, because both of them used to tell me, like, all that tells you is now you know there's no excuse to get less than an A and do your best at all times. There's no excuse for that shit. Like, there's no excuse. Stop trying to find ways to make it okay to make fucking blatant mistakes. No, it's not fair that other people get to make mistakes and they get second and third and fourth chances. Of course it's not fair. But why the hell do you want to make mistakes when you know damn well they would be mistakes? That's you not performing up to par. You know, you're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're human. But that's it. I can remember there was an episode of Everybody Hates Chris. I can remember that shit, right? It was the one where Orlando Jones was in there and he played the substitute teacher. And I think Chris had got a C in a course and on like a math test or some shit. Or he got a B. And the teacher told him, yeah, that's failing. And then the white kid comes with a C-, and the teacher says to him right there, hey, good job, keep up the good work. And Chris is like, man, that's the best grade I ever got. Why are you making it seem like I'm failing? Chris goes home and he complains to his parents and everybody else about how he's treated unfairly and everything else. And that teacher comes to his house and he says, look, yes, I grade your son a lot more harshly, but I do it because I know he's not performing to his full potential. Like I said, some people, they want to complain, oh, this isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. But, I saw it, I'm like, that's real right there. That's real. That's life. You see this shit right here. Nobody has ever, and even black folks are so goddamn wired. Now, I'm not going to say black folks because a lot of them have actually come out and said that shit. They pointed that out. But you heard that even with the interview with Jeff Metcalf. Never once did he say, my son should have known to keep his hands to himself. All they could do was focus on the wrong of Carmelo Anthony, which, hey, don't get it twisted. There was plenty of wrong from Carmelo. Bringing that knife, using that knife, all of that shit. But there was wrong on the part of Austin Metcalf too. That's what I'm saying. That's why both of them had to receive punishment for that, or didn't have to, but did receive punishment for what ended up happening that day. One person lost their life, the other one lost their freedom. Because they both did wrong. One shouldn't have brought a knife to a track meet, let alone used it. The other one should have kept his hands to himself. Shouldn't have took moving somebody into their own hands. But notice that they don't see that. You know? All he's talking about is how great of a kid that his kid is and everything else. But then when somebody comes up and they talk about Carmelo, well, he was he had a 3.7 GPA, and he was this captain of this team, and he didn't even like that the boy got a damn diploma after going through homeschooling over the course of the last year, because that's likely what he did. He just took online classes and obtained his diploma because he didn't have shit else to do. He was on house arrest. And they knew that might look good in court. So they probably instructed him to do it. He had a problem with that. But he also had a problem when his son almost didn't get a damn diploma, or wasn't going to get his name called because he wasn't allowed to attend online courses and finish his senior year. Notice that. Didn't see no issues with that. That's what I'm saying. I heard all of that sound. Now, that's a part of that interview that a lot of people just going to gloss over. They're just going to gloss over that part. That's what I'm saying. Society has wired them to believe that, look, fuck that. I can make mistakes, you can't. That's the way it is. But real shit, as a black man in America, how the fuck do you not know that shit? That's the way it is. So you either gonna move or you're gonna maneuver. But coming up crying and complaining, get out of here, bro. It's not a winning mentality, man. For real. At all. Can't get caught up in situations like that. So like I said, both of these parents, sets of parents failed their kids. Like, it's almost like you go back to that scene in Friday where Ice Cube, he's pulling out his pistol and shit because Big Worm is about to shake him and Smokey down. And his pops walks in on him. Pops is like, yo, what's that for? And Ice Cube is like, damn, yo, look, man, I got to walk Smokey home. And Pop says this right here. Me and your mother never would have moved in this neighborhood if we'd have known you'd have needed a gun to walk down the damn street. It's that simple. It's really that simple. If you need a knife just to go to a track meet, then you do not go to that track meet. That's something that you're supposed to teach your damn kids. You stay your ass home. So that's a mistake. But also, you keep your fucking hands to yourself. Especially before you touch a kid that got a hand in his bag. Because he might have something in that bag. And if I'm not mistaken, when I heard the court testimony, they said Austin even said to Carmelo, hey, don't be acting like you got something in your bag. And that's when when the words touch me and see what happens will came out of his mouth. So that boy got his hand in his bag. Like, bro, you actually could have been anything. That shit could have been a pistol. It could have been a knife. Could have been a fucking roll of quarters or some shit. Could have been anything. Hey, like I said, could have been a fucking hand of strychnine or some shit. That motherfucker might have been throwing some damn rat poison in your face. You don't know what the fuck he about to do with what he got in his fucking bag. So you don't touch people like that. Like, he could be crazy. He might not be all there. So you don't touch people. And if it looks that suspicious, where, hey, this boy acting like he got some shit in his bag, you might fuck somebody up, whatever. Yo, you go get a teacher. You go get somebody that's on staff right there. And you tell him, look, man, I don't know what old boy has in his bag, man, but, you know, be careful. If something ain't right about that. Yo, but you don't take that shit into your own hands on some move or you'll be moved shit. Like, fuck out of here. Yeah, your son made a fucking mistake.
That people want to have this conversation. People are interested in hearing from him, and that this is for me. And this may sound strange, but this for me is like COVID, I don't know, 2.0, 3.0, like the clearliness of people and their IQ is just like, this for me just shows the start.
I think she meant clarity. I think she just said clearliness. I don't think that's a word. I'm sorry. You know, sorry, I can't help but notice stuff like that. I know I use some slang and vernacular and, you know, some kind of like Ebonic grammar from time to time, but I can't help when I hear people that are supposed to be intelligent and articulate either use words out of context or just make fucking words up. I'm like, what the fuck?
Stark difference in people being able to critically think and people who are not, and just following along with what everybody is saying. And forgive me, Jason, I can barely breathe because I have a cold. But just the difference, the polarization is just, it's like COVID for me, how people are just taking a side and planting their feet 10 toes down, regardless of what the evidence is showing. Is COVID again for me.
I like that analogy because, and I apologize because people are going to be offended. They're going to be offended by what I'm saying here. But there was a lot of cowardice during COVID, and people just accepting the mainstream narrative and didn't want to be on the wrong side and didn't want to be, have their friendships or their social groups disturbed by taking the wrong position. And that's what's going. This is clear as day that one person is a victim and got murdered here unfairly, and people are too afraid to say that out loud. That's embarrassing. And the people, again, the people that were criticizing Jeff Metcalf, I think, for handling the aftermath in such a strategic and brilliant fashion. I'm not seeing any of these people that I saw publicly criticizing this guy over social media. I'm not seeing any of them walk back, admit that they were wrong, just hoping it goes away. And Jeff Metcalf should have done this. And if I were Jeff Metcalf, I would have said this. And you would have potentially jeopardized the justice that Jeff Metcalf and his family got in the 35-year sentence. The man was brilliant. And you know.
Not really. I mean, the situation happened without Jet Metcalf being pretty much anywhere in the vicinity when it did happen. So there really shouldn't have been anything that he could say during the trial, before the trial, that should have had any weight on the outcome of the trial. Like, it shouldn't have. It shouldn't have. Like, if let's just keep it, let's call it consistent. You know, if it's the facts of the case and the incident and the circumstances of the incident that allowed Carmelo Anthony to be convicted, why would something that happened after the incident, while Carmelo Anthony is on house arrest, awaiting his trial, why should that have any bearing on the verdict or the sentencing? That would be unjust. That would be unjust.
I think the Holy Spirit was guiding him and he didn't even know it. I see something here from I Need Jesus 55 with a super.
And I would have said the same thing if it were Carmelo Anthony's family. You know, they came up on somebody's platform and said something or whatever the hell their opinions are and whatever they choose to say about the incident, whether I agree with their opinion or not, whether it's rooted in racism, bigotry, whatever the case may be, it's still not supposed to have any bearing on that trial because it had nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them. It shouldn't have had any bearing on the verdict or the sentencing or the case that's permitted or presented from either the prosecution or the defense. That's bullshit. You know, so I can't stand when these people start making stuff up.
Super chat. By this, he's sending me a quote from John. By this, all people will know that you're my disciples if you have one love for one another. John 13:35. God bless you, Jason and crew. Thank you. I need Jesus. I think Virgil's here. Virgil gave a super chat. And Virgil,
yes, sir.
What'd you think?
I got a chance to watch it for the second time, and what was interesting was also watching. I wanted to see the feedback from the fans in real time. Were they experiencing it in the same way that I did? And for the most part, they did. I think there's a stark contrast between what you're seeing Jeff Metcalf deliver in the way of response, his expression of concern, areas where he was concerned. He was concerned about the kids who did testify, right? He wanted them protected. That was one of the reasons why there weren't cameras in the courtroom. He cared about that. He cared about the fact that they witnessed something that was going to be difficult for them for the rest of their lives. He expressed concern about every facet of other people's issues and responses, and yet had little concern for himself. Definitely concerned about his son, the one who died, and his son who lived, and to be a great role model for them and for others. He wants to give. He wants to, whereas the other family is trying to get, right? I was shocked by the fact that he said every one of the family members left during the sentencing phase. That's jaw-dropping to me. That would be the time where you want family closest to you, nearby you, and during the impact statements. So his interview was very revealing. It was incredibly helpful. I think the banner between you and he was fantastic. Great interviews often land because the interviewer asks a great question and gets out of the way and lets the interviewee do their thing. And I thought you did a great job of that. Especially there were so many times, man, I was brought close to tears listening to him unpack. Him showing up and seeing his son on a gurney, recognizing what I was with him. Like when he shows up, sees his son on a gurney, knows what's going on, and his first impulse is, I've got to move to the next thing. I can't be overwhelmed by my emotions in this. I've got to go find my other son and make sure he's all right. And so it's very dad-like, his process. All of those things were great, I think. And this format, I think, was a great format for him to share all of those ideas.
I was, because the interview was taped, I was able to read some of the reaction in the chat. And I know that this is why chats can be good and bad. You get a lot of trolls in there. You get a lot of people saying things they really don't believe. And the people that are dedicated to trolling this man and his family, I don't get it. And the people, this guy's a liar and this guy's this or that. I don't get it.
Now that's something I would never do. Because whether you agree with him, how he raised his son, or his stance or how vocal he is, I still understand that's a grieving father that had to bury his son prematurely. Like regardless of whose fault it is, who started it and all of that other shit, that's still a grieving father. So I'm not going to troll the dude. I do know that there are people on social media that are going out of their way to get his attention any way that they can. I was actually watching this stream earlier live, so I saw the some of the things that were stated in there. I'm talking about from both sides, people that were on his side, Jeff Metcalf, that is, and people that are, I guess, on the other side, the Carmelo Anthony side. I saw comments saying of course, watermelon felon, and this is the problem with black people. And I even saw like folks trying to put like blanket statements on black people. But then I also saw people putting in comments talking about rest in piss and all shit like that. And I was like, bro, this shit is out of hand. Like this is out of hand, like both ways. You know what I'm saying? Just both ways. But the internet is going to internet. Like, it's gonna internet. Like that's what it is. So Whitlock could have easily cut the chat off for stuff like that, or just let it rock out. I mean, that's up to him, but this is what you're gonna see. And I'm not gonna lie, that kind of pissed me off seeing it from both sides. I made sure that I didn't really I made a couple of comments, which is, hey, I agree with him on impulse control, de-escalation, conflict resolution, effective communication, all of that stuff. But I also made sure I mentioned in there you leaving a big part out, which is conflict prevention, i.e. keep your hands to yourself. That can be a quick conversation that I'd like to see from both the Metcalf family and the Anthony family. Look, one family can say, look, our son never should have brought that knife to attract me, and damn sure shouldn't have responded to non-lethal force with lethal force. That's it. And then the other family should have said, and our son never should have put his hands on yours. Had none of those things happened, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. You wouldn't have had to bury your son, and I wouldn't have to be putting money on my son's books and commissary and shit and have to talk to him through a fucking screen for the next 17 plus years. Because that's when he'll be eligible for parole. But when I see the attitude from both of these families, I can understand how the cycle will continue. Of just a lack of accountability both ways. A lack of accountability from everybody involved. And just feelings of entitlement. Every which way. Every which way. So y'all can get all of that. Oh, we could have got together and prayed together and all of that other shit. Nah, man. Before y'all do that, You got to be able to take some accountability for your situations and your mistakes as parents. Because I get it. There's no instruction manual to parenting. But yo, y'all both dropped the damn ball. You both did.
And so it was kind of, and look, most of the people listening, most people, they have no idea what's being said in the chat. That's not what they're paying attention to. And so the chat is for cowards and for anonymous people. I do, and again, I that's not everybody, but there's a percentage that I was reading and I'm like, holy cow, I was getting sick to my stomach. But the other thing, Virgil, that I think I'm going to say, put myself in here, I'm a bit more familiar with prison culture.
And I don't want to hear this shit. You know, I was taught at a young age as well. You keep your fucking hands to yourself. You don't want somebody touching on you. Don't be touching on nobody. The fuck? But I was also taught not to bring weapons to school and school functions. If I felt like I needed a weapon at school, I wasn't like, you don't go to school. Oh, well, what if you think kids are going to bully you and all of that other shit? Okay. That's what my fucking homies are for. Like, the fuck? Anybody that fucks with me gonna have to fuck with all of us. So that's enough of a deterrent. That's it. So nobody gets into shit. No.
Because of family, because of friends, because of my relationship with Jim Brown and the people I've met, and the things that I've done. And so I'm telling you, the other part of this conversation that was interesting, that I'm not even sure if Jeff Metcalf understands, and I want to educate him on. Like, I think the scams coming out of this are not close to being over. You would be shocked at how clever people are that are locked up and have nothing but time to think about how they can get over on people. And there's part of me that feels like this has something to do with gangs and demonic energy and some, like, that Carmelo Anthony is some sort of child sacrifice. I said this to him, and it's not in Jeff Metcalf's wheelhouse to understand where I'm coming from with that. But I'm telling you, the way the family has operated, they put up no defense. They collected a bunch of money and then didn't get a lawyer that put up any kind of defense. And then
I agree with that. I do agree with that. No? But I think that was just a lack of knowledge and also a lack of a thirst for knowledge. You know? Which, if you do want to talk about any issues with the quote unquote black community, or, you know, the demographic, a majority of the demographic, you know, let's just keep it real. You know, our people suffer from a lack of a thirst for knowledge. And there you go. That's why shit happens. I don't think they knew any better, which is understandable. You know, as far as they're concerned, the situation's unprecedented. So they didn't know what to do in that situation. So, hey, they were food. You know, they were food for grifters. And that's why a bunch of people are still eating off that shit. And they're going to keep eating off of it until the well has run dry.
Exited the courtroom at sentencing and impact statement. And it's almost like, hey, this is part of a ritual where he's going to prison and we're going to build some kind of charity scam around him and some sort of just because the give, send, go thing is over, but this thing isn't remotely over as a money-making opportunity for his parents and whoever's backing his parents and the whole collection of criminals, including Dominique Alexander, that are backing him. Shamika, is this landing with you at all?
You know, I've been talking over X in my DMs with the woman who's been saying the same thing. There's something just not right about the parents. And she does feel like, you know, Carmelo is also a victim in a way because of his parents and the adults around him. And so I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but just looking at the comparison between the two fathers, it's a stark difference. One is about grace and love. The other is angry. He's in a place of delusion. He's a victim. Everybody owes him something. And there's a difference. And I still cannot understand why there hasn't been some type of public apology, some type of, you know, please forgive me. The mother keeps saying, my son didn't mean to kill anybody, but we haven't heard this from the son. Who was telling this young man not to speak up for himself when it matters most? So something is going on with these parents, with these advocates. Who would choose Dominique Alexander? How did you even know him? You know, how did you even know this lifelong criminal and think he was supposed to be the best representative for your family? Something just isn't right. I don't know what it is, but I'm with you that there's more to this.
More than likely, that's the same. That dude, Dominique Alexander, is likely the same person that helped them seek out their legal counsel. He likely gave them the thumbs up on paying that retainer for the subpar legal counsel they had. That's it. And he probably got his cut. That's what it was. No. So keep on falling for them soapbox hustles. Because those ambulance chasing activists, the thing about them, they never come around until there's an ambulance to chase. You don't see them in the community trying to prevent things that cause an ambulance to be called. They don't have time for that shit. Because you don't get credit in their line of work by preventing problems. You know, you get credit in their line of work by magnifying them, putting a magnifying glass and a spotlight on problems. But in order to do that, you actually need a problem. And they fell for that shit.
Than what we're seeing.
Yeah, I go back to the issue of a plea deal. Surely there was some kind of a plea deal offered that would have allowed him to avoid a jury trial, some admission of guilt.
I believe there was one offered, but even if there wasn't one offered, which I don't see how there isn't one, but even if there wasn't one offered, was there one requested? Was there an attempt to negotiate one? There's no record of any of that. So for all of them people that try to come up in my chat and say to me when I'm on the panel, well, there wasn't a plea deal offered. Was there one requested? Was there an attempt to negotiate one on the part of the defense? If the prosecution didn't offer, was there an attempt to negotiate one on the part of the defense? Because there's no record of any of that. publicly. So that's a problem. But I agree. There's supposed to be some kind of plea. The only way I could see you taking that shit to trial is if they telling you, look, you're looking at 35 or 40 years if convicted, but you could take a plea right now and that'll be for 30. Then I guess in that case, it makes sense to take it to trial. Because you're really talking about a difference of 2.5 years with parole. Or if it's like, hey, you can take 30 years with no possibility of parole if you plead. It's pretty, it makes sense to take your chances in court. I get that. But you can't find any record of anything offered, anything requested, any attempt to negotiate one, nothing. So that's subpar defense right there.
So like I think to the point you're making, whether it's lawyers, whether it's family members, wherever they're getting their advice from, it was really poorly received. Whether it's this Dominic Alexander guy,
and then when you do decide to take it to trial, I mean, it's a Hail Mary, but you got to put old boy on the stand. Because the literal threat is obviously it's non-lethal because you got the Austin Metcalf is unarmed. So you're going to have to make a case for the perceived threat being lethal. Like he perceives a lethal threat. How can you convince a jury of what Carmelo Anthony perceives without putting him on the goddamn stand? Say Hail Mary, probably wouldn't have worked, but I don't see how you have a chance to get out of there with self-defense without it. And I don't have to be a legal professional to know that. I've served on a jury before. I've served on multiple mock juries, and that's just how that shit gonna work, man. Like that's just how that's gonna work. So you about to go down for M1, and they about to give you 40, bro. Like this is gonna cost you your 20s and your 30s. You fuck around and don't get paroled, it's gonna cost you your 40s and some of your 50s.
Wherever they're getting their information from, it was really poorly handled. The kid left there knowing that he did it, and if there was an opportunity for him to experience less of a time in jail or time in prison rather, he should have taken full advantage of that and should have pled that down, made the apologies that he needed to, and pressed on. I've watched a number of different YouTube videos of lawyers who've adjudicated the case, who've looked at the case and said there were so many ways for them to mitigate the time that he actually got sentenced with. If he would have made a public apology and reached out to the family and embraced Jeff Metcalf, and
that's bullshit. It's bullshit. It could possibly give some extra consideration in court, but there's no guarantee on any of that shit. Once you take it to trial, that's it, man. That's it. And it's really this simple right here. Like, if you let the jury decide and then you're at the mercy of the judge, you have no chance. You need somebody that's hired by you to work for you, negotiating on your behalf. Not fighting on your behalf, but negotiating on your behalf. That's what you need. Then all the apologies and shit come later. You know?
So many things that could have been done along the way that would have reduced the sentence. But what you have is you have this entitlement, this entitlement mindset, this victimology ideology that permeates much of Black culture that has them going all the way to the end. And then when you get sentenced with 35 years, having to be responsible for 17 and a half for sure before any kind of probation is offered. That everybody can't believe it. Like this shouldn't have happened. Well, it didn't have to happen, right? There are so many opportunities for it not to happen, but that's where we are, and that's the long and short of it.
Jeff said it himself. I'm sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead.
Jeff even said that himself. He said he really believes if they had taken the opportunity when he came to pray and showed some sort of remorse, that he himself doesn't believe that it would have been 35 years, but they went a totally different way. And it's amazing.
And what the fuck does that mean? What the fuck Jeff Metcalf believes? Unless he had a judge in his fucking back pocket, which would suggest total utter corruption. No. No. And if you're telling me because Carmelo Anthony's family refused to pray with Jeff Metcalf, that's why he's sitting in jail for 35 years, that sounds like grounds to get a damn sentencing and maybe even a conviction overturned. So don't tell me that because my mother and my father, this boy's mother and father chose not to pray with Jeff Metcalf, for all you know, they could be Muslim. You praying to Jesus Christ, they pray to Allah, for all you know. You don't have a clue. They don't have to pray with you. Well, if you pray with us or we're going to give your boy 35 years. That's the shit this woman just said. Like the fucking nerve. And they think this shit actually sound good to some people.
I'm sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead.
Jeff even said that himself. He said he really believes if they had taken the opportunity when he came to pray and showed some sort of remorse, that he himself doesn't believe that it would have been 35 years, but they went a totally different way. And it's amazing to me that even the victim's father says he possibly could have gotten less time, but then you see people.
No, once he got convicted of M1, which the jury had the option to convict him of manslaughter, which would have been a second-degree felony and would have only carried a maximum sentence of 20 fucking years. Okay, well, once he got convicted of M1, 35 years is standard. Like, that's standard. So where the fuck do these people get off with this shit? Like, where do you come up with this? If I could tell you, and I'm not even a legal professional, that boy was facing 40. That's what was likely going to happen because of his age, his lack of priors, and the fact that they're not seeking out the death penalty, and they're probably not going to go with life. That's it. I could have told you it's anywhere between 35 and 45 years. That's where I got the number 40. Now, I'm not a fucking judge. That boy is about to do 40. So you telling me that a damn prayer with the parents would have changed that? Miss me with the bullshit.
Like in the chat saying, oh, They didn't owe you any apology. They didn't owe you anything. And I'm just thinking, God, are you guys retarded? Like, I don't understand what's so hard about saying, even if you feel like you were wrong. Let me just play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's say Carmelo thought he was going to be harmed and this was self-defense. If you really didn't mean to kill anyone, you would just say that. It would still be some type of remorse, some type of apology. And I just don't understand why that's so hard for people to grasp. I don't understand.
And if he's instructed by his legal counsel to not say anything, then he just didn't say anything. You know? Because, I mean, again, two things can be true at the same time. Not only did he not say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to delete anyone, he also didn't say, hey, that motherfucker shouldn't have touched me and I'd do it again if I had to. He didn't say that. He didn't say anything. So let's just keep it real. 35 years, which was not a maximum sentence, because the judge actually was within his, he was well within his boundaries to just give him the whole damn 99, even though that was unlikely. But, he was in his boundaries to do, like he could have, once Carmelo's tried as an adult. But the fact that you're even taking this to trial and pleading self-defense shows that you have very little fucking remorse. So that's really what that is. But like I say, once you get a conviction from a jury for the maximum, the highest charge, 35 years is what the hell is going to happen. I don't give a fuck how many times you pray or who you pray with publicly. So I don't like that narrative right there. And then now y'all are trying to say, oh, well, hey, you're supposed to just put on your fucking top hat and your tap shoes, you know what I'm saying, and get up and buck dance and bojangle, and maybe the judge will take it easy on you. Nah. They supposed to have a lawyer that can make a fucking deal. That's it. Can you get this down to manslaughter or negligent homicide? Because Carmelo Anthony did not know he was using lethal force. He didn't know it. And can you get it down to that? Only with the plea. Okay, cool. I need it in writing. So just like I said, if you're going to have a self-defense case, the force that you use has to be proportionate to the threat or perceived threat, but that also goes to the perceived force as well. Now, you're not going to get off altogether because you did use some level of force because you used a fucking knife, but you might be able to get that down to negligent homicide. You might be able to get it down to second degree, but chances are not without a plea. Without a plea, that's it, man. They're gonna overcharge the fuck out of you. That usually goes for anybody in court, regardless of what the hell your skin tone is. In a situation like this, when there are 21 eyewitnesses that are going to take the stand, and probably another 30 that didn't, that saw you do the shit, and there's police body camera footage of you saying, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Fuck. Fucking ads just popping up on my damn phone.
Man.
I'm going to let you all into the level of my conspiracy theory mind. and just like I think people think Epstein Island is the ultimate or the worst part of the satanic child sacrifice deal. And I think it's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, there's also Hollyweird, but let's go.
I think that's the PG rated version. We all know what the X-rated version is. It's the murder of children in the womb. And so if people are willing to murder a baby in the womb, they won't bat an eye if they're part of some sort of satanic gang cult. And these things are all connected. It's like the gangs and Freemasonry and all this anti-Jesus stuff. They're all connected, and child sacrifice is at the root of it. And the highest form of child sacrifice is killing the baby in the womb. And there's nothing more vicious you can do. And so sitting here and someone perhaps telling this young, at the time, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, hey man, in order for you to cross over into our world, you have to be willing to attack someone unfairly. And so the kid shows up at a track meet with a knife in his bag and baits someone into conflict and immediately stabs him. None of that makes sense. The only way that makes sense, you have to delve into the satanic world and say, okay, who put the battery in his back? Who gave him this assignment? And then why is the family doing everything in its power? They get in bed with a criminal, Dominique Alexander. They don't ask for mercy immediately and forgiveness immediately. And then they go through a trial where the lawyer puts up no defense. Kid doesn't take the stand. Family abandons him at sentencing. It's like they wanted the worst sentence possible. And now they're hatching money-making schemes based on this kid off the idiocy of people that will send money under the racial grift. And people get so upset when I constantly talk about the race aspect of this. And it has to be discussed because the race aspect is part of the coverage, what's driving. It's what's making people not see, hey, this is satanic, because they make it, well, everything's racial. But that's how you trick other people that are in race idolatry cults into financially supporting you. And so we're going to, again, this is, again, you'll think I'm crazy, but I'm just George Floyd, that's a sacrifice. That they've built an entire industry, money-making industry around George Floyd, and promoted another false idol. Promoted, George Floyd is the standard and some sort of hero and somebody to be celebrated. And they've just said, oh, you thought that was good? George Floyd was passing off counterfeit $20 bills and high on fentanyl, and we made y'all make him an idol.
Yeah, but just like Austin Metcalf, likely didn't deserve to have a knife put into his chest just for shoving another kid, because that's something that kids do. I don't give a fuck how high on fentanyl George Floyd was, or even the Secret Service who investigates counterfeit situations and shit. They understand that George Floyd was likely not in his basement creating counterfeit money. When you're caught with counterfeit dollars, it's kind of like probably a victim of your goddamn self. Counterfeit money passes a bunch of fucking hands. So none of that gives a cop the right to put his damn knee in the back of his neck, all right, and delete him in broad daylight in front of his fellow officers and an entire fucking community and neighborhood. So miss me with the bullshit. Now, if he was high on fentanyl and he just pretty much deleted himself, if he passes on from a fentanyl overdose, you might have a case for that. Okay? So I'm not saying that George Floyd is a fucking hero, but that cop is dead ass wrong. Which is why that cop is behind bars right now for the fucked up shit he did. And the other cops that sat around and watched him do that shit should be behind bars too.
We can do better 6 years later. We're going to make a murderer your idol. A murderer that killed a child in front of a bunch of other children, we're going to make him an idol. And it's happening. Yeah. This is evil personified. I want you all to react, but let me, because I don't want to forget, I want to get to a few more of these guys that are sending in super chats. MMD 931, thank you so much. He's got some lighthearted here. Scap called and said the interview with Mr. Metcalf was great, but there wasn't enough Kobe. Love y'all. And this.
Now, I'm going to actually put this on the screen. We're going to pivot a little bit. Right before Jason Whitlock did this video, he actually had an interview with Isaiah Thomas. He used to play for the Detroit Pistons, that Isaiah Thomas. He had an interview with him, and then he had another YouTuber that's from the sports sector, pretty much just talks about basketball. He had Scap Attack. If y'all are familiar with Scap Attack's channel, you know, he talks about basketball, but he can't have a single show without talking about his love for the late, great Kobe Bryant. That's what it is. So, you know, even though they were having a conversation about, I think, Jalen Brunson and Victor Wembanyama and some other stuff, like Scap Attack made sure he mentioned Kobe, which he does every video. He has to mention, which a lot of those, those diehard Kobe loving channels do. They can't have a single video without mentioning Kobe Bryant.
New format is awesome. Did we ever get to the first guy that sent? Did we ever get to the first guy that sent one in? I think it was yeah. There we go. This is TJM Truth 72. Mr. Metcalf, as a father of 3, I applaud and admire you. I pray for you and your family. This was tragic on so many levels. God bless you. Is there one more, Luke? 2 more. All right. Let's get. Oh no, we've already done that one. That was the Kobe joke. There we go. Beaten cheeks. This is why people should have their face to name to prevent race hustling dummies. God bless the Metcalf family and you for a fantastic interview. Is that it, Luke? Or oh, we got one more. 99 Problems, 253. The fact there's outrage over Metcalf's video rather than Anthony's parents abandoning him tells us a lot. I think that's a great point. People are so upset. Oh, he said watermelon felon. And this is some outrage. And we just watched, in my view, a 17, 18, now 19-year-old child, Carmelo Anthony, sacrificed to a life in prison. And we've seen another one stabbed and killed in broad daylight. Anyway, Virgil, your reaction?
I think about it, the person closest to the issue is Jeff Metcalf, and for him to express, compassion, concern, and even when he said, he almost felt sorry for Carmelo Anthony because everyone had abandoned him. I mean, he expressed that kind of care and compassion for the young man who stabbed his son in the chest. Like that speaks volumes, right? He at least understands humanity. He understands the Imago Dei. He understands, the fact that we are human beings created in the image of God and have value and worth. Scripture says it this way, Jason, that those who hate God love death. Those who hate God love death. I think that's like Psalms 8:36, somewhere in there. This is one of the things that we've got to keep in mind is if you're someone who's abandoned God, you've abandoned a biblical worldview, you're going to embrace death. All that you engage in, right? Sin leads to death. You're gonna be involved in that space. That's going to be the air you breathe, the space you occupy. We've got to get back to God. We've got to get back to a biblical worldview. We've got to get back to calling on the name of the Lord. We've got to get back to that, and in so many spaces and places. And I love the fact that Jeff Metcalf, and I'll land the plane here, was a flawed man who recognized it, who was honest about it. But he said he's trying to do the best that he could to hold on to his walk with Christ. Recognizes when he gets off track, when he messes up, as we all do, but comes back to the core, to his core foundation, which is Jesus Christ. I pray for him, for his family, and that they function in a way that's God honoring. As well, the Anthony family. I hope they find Christ. I hope they abandon this victimology. I hope I hope he truly does indeed begins to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, even where he's at.
Let me read a couple more super chats and we'll wrap this thing up. What's that? Pillsbury? Pillsbury Doughboy, I get number 27. The Anthony family has over $650,000 in another fundraiser. They bought a new house, 2 vehicles, and Carmelo's mother has a nose job. Dominique Alexander, Charleston White, and Carmelo's family used him to get money, and they're not done. I'm just telling you, there will be dummy 5.
No, I think that one right there, that comment is kind of half right, right there, or maybe 2/3 right. I don't know about the mom getting a nose job. And I don't believe they bought the house with Gibson Go money or any of that stuff. But I will agree with that. Dominique Alexander, Charleston White, and that lawyer did use him to get some damn money. Yeah. And I would agree with Whitlock on that. They're gonna get more. They're gonna milk the fuck out of this goddamn cow while that boy is in jail. That's what they're gonna do. Welcome to the internet.
1C3s
and a bunch of other people about to follow their lead.
Started.
So for the most part, I'm done with this shit. I ain't got nothing else to say. Well, then again, I guess I probably should do another video where I show the interview with Carmelo's family, but that was kind of just painful to watch. Like, that was painful to watch. Like, it's just painful to watch. Just because you got to be able to articulate yourself well, or get a real spokesperson, a good one, and they're not really doing that. So that was just painful to watch. So that's why I didn't break it down. I'm like, whatever, like, at some point you got, just like I broke down with this one right here, and that's only because I happened to catch it live today. But like, you gotta be able to take some accountability, or show that that you've told your son to take some accountability in this situation. Now, I didn't see Jeff Metcalf, like, acknowledge any accountability on the part of his son. Like, my son should have known to keep his hands to himself and not try to do an administrator or an adult's job, because he's not one. If Carmelo was somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be, my son should have went and got a teacher, an administrator, a coach, somebody else. That's it. He shouldn't have took the job of security into his own hands. Had he not done that, he would be here today. I've always told my kids to keep their hands to themselves. This is why they teach you when you're young, like, hey, you keep your hands to yourself. Don't talk to strangers. Little shit like that. And then I didn't hear the Anthony family just say, look, our son never should have brought that damn knife to that school, or to that school function. And definitely definitely shouldn't have used it. Shouldn't have threatened anybody with it, and damn sure shouldn't have used it. Our son was dead wrong for that. And unfortunately, hey, he's got to do the time for that. That's something we have to live with, you know? And I'm saying both fathers and parents could have said that shit, but neither one of them did. So, like I said, this is why cycles of situations like this are going to continue to fucking happen, because nobody ever thinks they could have done anything different or anything better, you know, because taking accountability, it sounds too much like blame to people. So I know in these spaces and shit, everybody tries to put that shit on somebody they don't like, you know. But there's a big difference between blame and accountability, you know. And in this situation, everybody's fucking wrong. Everybody's wrong. And as parents, you're supposed to be responsible, or you're supposed to at least feel responsible for the fucked up shit that your kids do. But I mean, no wonder that situation escalated like that. Look at who both of these kids' parents were or are. Look at that shit.
Some kind of social justice or criminal justice reform charity in his name, or in some dummy corporation. This is all to Dominique Alexander. This is all to prop him up and to keep that money-making machine that he's doing alive. And the whole thing is demonic and evil. Let's get to the next one. Creole Lady, thank you for the super chat. Blessings and prayers for the Metcalfs and Carmelo Anthony. After this program, please check your email. I'll do that. Is that considered slipping into my emails? She's trying to slip into my emails. Is that what that is?
Hey, Jason, I
Yeah.
said Psalm. It's Proverbs. Proverbs 8:36 is the correct citation. I wanted to just get that in. Those who hate God love death. That if you hate God, you're going to embrace death.
Shamika, I'm gonna give you a final thought, and then we'll get out of here.
You know, Jason, you would think people had learned from BLM the amount of money that we saw raised that just went to these lesbians buying houses all across the country and things for themselves. But clearly they haven't learned that they keep continuing to just pour money into a pocket with holes in it. This is not going to help Carmelo Anthony. I feel sorry for the people who think that it will, but clearly they didn't learn the first time, and so they're going to have to go through this again and learn the hard way.
Shamika, Virgil, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and drop the link to this video if you guys want to check it out without my commentary. I did drop the link in the chat. If anybody want to come up, discuss it for a little bit, you can. I'm about to get out of here otherwise, because I've been up here for going on 4 hours. Let me go ahead and drop that. Oopsie. Y'all can do what you want with that. Review it. I'm pretty sure, you know what I'm saying, some folks saw, because I scheduled this a little bit earlier, so I'm pretty sure, people kind of saw my thumbnail and shit, and, you know what I'm saying, they already on their shows, breaking it down and shit like that. So, check it out over there. They'll give their commentary and shit, because I know a lot of these folks, they don't even They don't even watch Jason Whitlock because they know that it's going to be a conservative point of view, and most people on the internet are just looking for some level of confirmation bias or something like that. So, and even if you do watch Jason Whitlock, you're probably not subbed to his Harmony channel, so you didn't even see this. You know, you didn't even see this. Like, for the most part, for me to even get any type of alert that this was going on, I had to catch his interview with Isaiah Thomas live. And that's when they kind of, redirected everybody over to another channel where this interview played. So, like I say, I already know, folks ain't, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, this is an interview with Isaiah Thomas, and a platform like Jason Whitlock's. I think he might have had not even 1,000, live viewers or some shit. And I'm pretty sure none of the motherfuckers were them folks in these spaces. Like, none of them were. So it's all good. I'm glad to feed y'all. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Yeah. Appreciate you. But I guess, nobody wants to come up. I'll just get my ass out of here and enjoy my evening, man. Hey, shout out to everybody, all of the member milestones. Shout out to TMKC supporting the stream. Big Brenda, Stacy, what I'm saying, all of the members. Anybody that's going to be checking the replay. Anybody's going to be checking the replay out. I really do appreciate y'all. I'm going to get me some sleep, get a look at my schedule for tomorrow before I get up out of here. See what's up. Yeah. Shit day tomorrow. So I'll probably be back on tomorrow afternoon. That'll be fun. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe if you haven't done that. Next time I go live, I'll likely have it on subs only mode or something. There are definitely some things that I want to break down, and probably some shit that I'm going to want to rant about too. But on that note, man, this was definitely a pleasure. I appreciate everybody coming through. It was fun. Y'all have a good night. I'm about to dip all the way up out of here, man. Y'all have a good night, man. Peace.